So we can do what's Hondo on the mic from Leo's Paradise. Random stream drop like a Dragon Ball fight. No lie, plan stream stacking up, but here's a twist in time. Freestyling on the deck like Luffy's punchlines. Up the channel's faster than Zoro sword swings. Game and pop culture, it's the chaos he brings. Talking movie reboots, superhero hype. Hondo passing the mic, now Bishop's in sight. Cutting clip screen, frame by frame, I align. Laying bass lines heavy, keep the rhythm divine. Dropping 5 videos, can't keep up with the pace. Pass the mic back, Leo's leading the chase. Off the rails, no script, just a freestyle ride. Nerdcore king, let the randomness collide. Playing a knob, Leo's got the flow to entice. It's words of paradise, the chaos comes to life. No script, just a freestyle ride. Nerdcore king, let the randomness collide. Planning on, Leo's got the flow to entice. It's words of paradise, the chaos comes to life. Off the rails, no script, just a freestyle ride. Nerdcore king, let the randomness collide. Planning on, Leo's got the flow to entice. It's words of paradise, the chaos comes to life.
Welcome to a late night with Leon. I absolutely did not do the lunch hour stream today because after being on 3 streams yesterday, my voice was shredded. But took the day off, drank fluids all day, and now we feeling good. How are you doing, you vital idols? We've got plenty to talk about. I have been avoiding the Piers Morgan, Candace Owens conversation, debate, whatever you want to call it, because I want to cover it live with you guys. That's what we're going to do. We also got an interesting video, or at least I hope it's interesting, based on the title is interesting, about whether or not the USA blew up a UFO, talked about on Joe Rogan. Somehow I have my doubts, but we'll see. And then we'll have some gaming stuff to cap it all off. We have a pre-stream legend in Piranha Bout came in with a 2-banger. You love to see it. Late Night Leonidas. Let's fucking go.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
It is, in fact, a bold strategy to do Late Night Leonidas. I don't know how many of you guys are going to be here because this is not the time we usually stream. But let's see who else is in the building. Valiant Goat. Spectral Heartless is here. Jack SG2s. UAF Omega. Susan Morijan? I apologize if I'm butchering that, but it's nice to see you here. Free Expression Warriors in the house. Golden Apples. Nick Habit. My boy St. Hugo is here. Gal Carrymon. Might says I can't stand Piers, but him Felton Candace was legit hilarious. Rare Brit Cuck W. I ain't seen it yet, but that's what I'm hearing. That is what I'm hearing on the grapevine. Alrighty. Scotty G, shout out. How you doing? Why don't we just get right into it? I will not stop. Candace Owens meets Erica Kirk. Let's see how this went down.
Well, no matter what your opinion is about Candace Owens, and very few people don't seem to have one.
I certainly have one. I can't fucking stand her. I think Candace Owens has done just as not, if not more damage to the quote-unquote right wing, to the conservative movement, whatever you want to call it, as Pam Bondi. Absolutely.
There's a definite knack for commanding attention. Many people have been openly enraged by her theorizing on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Many have been captivated nightly by what they see as either a thrilling real-time investigation into a colossal cover-up or a cynical strategy to exploit the most emotive and consequential news story of the year. Several of the Candace Owens claims are focused on Turning Point USA, the organization funded by Charlie Kirk and now run by his widow, Erica, who last week issued this firm request.
She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her...
It's always about the money. I'm like, I don't want to defend Candace, but it's a little odd that, super pro Israel Barry Weiss, who's gaining a lot of fucking weight, by the way, first thing she goes to is the money. How is this any different than these, leftist nutbags that go after people like me or Hypno or Smash or anyone because of, oh, they're making money. There's a reason we got the pre-stream Legends money, money, money jingle. Yeah, it's no different in the real world.
Business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now.
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
Well, shortly after that, Candace Owens was invited to a lengthy private meeting with Erica Kirk, which is now the catalyst for frenzied speculation that she may be having second thoughts about some of her theories. She's also, I should add, marking the release of her new book, Make Him a Sandwich. And amid all of that, she joins me now for her first interview since the meeting with Erica Kirk. Candace Owens, welcome back to Uncensored.
It's good to be with you at the end of another year.
Yes, and what a year it's been, not least for you. It's fair to say your fame continues to rise, infamy, some would put it, but you're always a welcome guest on Uncensored. Let's get to this extraordinary meeting that you had with Erica Kirk. It came right after we saw her say in that CBS town hall, you should stop, just stop with the conspiracy theories. So who approached who about you guys actually getting together?
I was approached by Turning Point after Blake Neff, who works on Charlie's show, sort of fumbled this invite. It was, I'd almost say it was a fake invite publicly. And then in the middle of the night said, oh, Candace is not able to be here tomorrow. And they never messaged me. And I think there was quite a bit of public backlash with how they went.
The backlash was against Candace for lying about it. She said that they gave her a 24-hour notice and to be there in person. Only part of that's true. The note to be there in person was true. They weren't going to do this virtually. But it was a far more than 24-hour advance. They stated the meeting would be on like December 15th or something, and they made it publicly known on like December 4th. Sounds to be a bit more like more than 24 hours in my opinion. And yeah, Candace refused to do it in person. She said she would do it virtually. And anytime you do something like that virtually, a whole lot of chicanery can ensue. Oh, I've got technical difficulties, things to that effect. So yeah, doing it in person was the only way to go about it in my opinion.
About it. It was just not the way that we try to set meetings. And so what happened after was they reached out to me, said Erica would agree to do a live stream, just the two of us. And then after Erica's PR blitz, they reached out again and said that they felt that it was better for us to meet one-on-one as opposed to us sitting down having Megyn Kelly moderate, which was the idea originally.
Right, and so where did you have your summit meeting?
At a hotel here in Nashville.
And a lot of your, as you know, a lot of your supporters, fans of your show, think that you may have been lured into a trap. Did anything while you were there?
Lured into it. Dude, this is the sort of individuals that Candace Owens breeds. Like, don't get me wrong, I run a conspiracy theory show, tinfoil haters, but let's be real. There's a difference between healthy conspiracies, healthy conspiratorial questions, and what Candace does. She rallies a base of morons that will believe anything under the guise of just asking questions. Oh, she was lured into a trap. Man, get the fuck out of here. Ain't nobody care enough about Candace Owens to lure her into a trap. Like, she's been out here on this tirade for months upon months, throwing a bitch fit about the Charlie Kirk stuff, upsay spaghetti for who knows what reason, and claiming it's a cover-up, but won't actually explain what the cover-up is, because she can just use that term cover-up as a catch-all. And then, when the widow of the man who was assassinated says, yeah, let's have a conversation about this, because you're out here slandering my husband over the last several months and slandering the organization that he built. Oh, it's a trap? No, maybe she just don't want somebody out here spreading conspiracy theories about her husband. Now, mind you, I'm not one that 100% believes the narrative about Charlie Kirk. I think there are questions to be asked. But there's nothing that Candace has asked that actually seems relevant to what could have possibly happened. This is literally just her spinning yarns for clicks and views. Like, that's really what it is.
Make you think you were being lured into a trap?
I don't know that a lot of my fans think that I was being lured into a trap. I think ahead of time they had some concerns, obviously. Because
if you don't think your fans thought you were being lured into a trap, then why was the first thing you said after you got done with the conversation, I'm okay? You did this little Instagram reel or short form or whatever it was. You're like, I'm okay. We had a very, constructive conversation, but I just want to let you know all, I'm okay. But don't even front like your folk didn't think you were being lured into a trap. Otherwise, you wouldn't have needed to preface your short form explanation with, I'm okay, as if anything was going to happen to your black ass.
because I think in general, after you see a public assassination and you start tracking so many lies that are happening, there's going to be an understandable amount of angst that people feel. And I certainly felt the angst as well. I've obviously been very clear that I am suspicious of some of the characters that are at Turning Point USA. So I totally understand why the public was concerned.
When you saw Erica, she was obviously angry about you in that CBS town hall. What was her demeanor like when you met her?
Well, I don't think that she thought she was angry in that. I think maybe that was the characterization from the public. I certainly thought she was angry as well. And she sort of clarified that she was a bit annoyed by the questioning, the way in which Barry had set up the question with the podcaster, Candace Owens, which I think was definitely being driven more by Barry Weiss's feelings towards me, long-running feelings towards me, than it was perhaps for the benefit of CBS and trying to pretend to be an impartial journalist. So I think she was frustrated by the line of questioning, is what she explained to me.
So how would you categorize the 4.5 hours? If you were looking at it in totality, what was the tone of the conversation? What do you
It's definitely true this was a sit down between two women, because ain't no reason that shit should have been 4.5 fucking hours. Only broads could drag out a conversation like that long.
think you both got out of it?
Well, for me, answers to the questions of trying to understand why there were so many Turning Point lies and why, instead of people acknowledging that these are lies, I felt that there was this billion-dollar psychological operation to convince people that Candace is just crazy. These aren't lies. These are made up. And
Yeah, guys, I'm gonna be real. It don't take no billion-dollar psyop to convince people that Candace is crazy. All you gotta do is, for free, watch Candace's show, and you'll realize she fucking crazy.
so I was very refreshed that they owned up to the lies. That was a great first step. And I think, you know, what motivates that? Maybe because despite having what I would assume to be the best PR agents and crisis PR agents in the world, we're moving toward a different world where people don't really care, you know, if you are friends with the people at, what is it, WME and CAA and what they can do for you. That sort of power is ineffectual in this day and age. And so I think they recognize that, and that the public simply doesn't believe the story that they've been fed, and the psychological operation to convince us not to believe our own eyes or to trust our common sense instincts has failed.
Okay,
And I think
so
on their end, they got more clarity on how I figured out certain things, more clarity on
How I figured out certain things. You haven't figured out shit. That's the thing. This is snake oil salesman at its finest. Like, no one is saying you can't question the Charlie Kirk narrative. Nobody has said that. Nobody's had any qualms with questioning the Charlie Kirk narrative. It's the narrative you built during said questioning that is equally as laughable.
on why I am convinced that there are people that are inside of Turning Point that are dirty. And I was able to share more with them off record, and I think that they got more clarity in exchange.
Before we get into some of the sort of specifics, is there not a danger here? I've already seen it in some of the reaction from people that follow your show. Is there not a danger that in seeking to be the one that exposes the truth, and I don't know the truth about what happened to Charlie Kirk. I work on the assumption that this lone, twisted, weirdo Tyler Robinson killed him for whatever reason, and I suspect personally that is how this will play out. However, I have an open mind in the sense that we still don't really know what happened with President Kennedy's assassination. I found the attempted assassination of Donald Trump very odd in the way that that's been handled by the authorities and so on. I'm not naive. As a journalist of 40 years, I'm not naive enough to say every single thing you've been saying is obviously baloney, because I don't know. And we'll get to some of the more specific details. But is there not a danger, Candace, that by having a 4.5-hour private meeting, rather than doing it in public, that all you're really going to do, collectively actually, you and Erica Kirk, is fuel the conspiracy theories about what you may or may not have discussed in that meeting, what part of the stuff that you've been broadcasting on your show she agrees with and doesn't agree with, and so on.
No, I don't think she's a plant, Lessis. I'll be real. I don't think she's a plant. I do think that she gained this audience and whatnot organically. I just think she's a fucking moron. Like, for her to have been a plant, she was at Turning Point USA from the beginning. This was years upon years. I mean, we're talking almost 10 years ago, whatnot. So, no, I don't think she's a plant. I think that she is an individual who is easily misled, who, you know, jumps, like, is a pseudo-intellectual, who got an opportunity that, frankly, she likely earned, but she earned that opportunity through just, like, following and following the footsteps and listening and bowing and kowtowing to the people ahead of her who were bigger than her, who was basically, she played the game. And now that she's no longer playing the game, it's too little too late.
Is there not a danger?
And I'm very familiar with what she was getting up to during Gamergate. I mean, that's how I found out about Candace Owens. I've been aware of Candace Owens since Gamergate. That being said, people's opinions can change, their thoughts can change. I don't think there's no evidence that she is a leftist plant. You would need to actually provide something to point to, because when you just say you think she's a plant because she did XYZ 10 years ago during Gamergate, you're doing the same thing Candace is doing, making accusations and doing conspiracy theories without pointing to any actual evidence.
The least transparent way of going about trying to get solutions here.
Well, I'm a very transparent person, so my preference was to do it publicly, but I took the offer, obviously, to have any conversation, because if I hadn't done that, then I think everything I'm in doing would have appeared disingenuous. Like, oh, Candace is pretending that she wants answers to her questions, but when she got this offer, she suddenly said she didn't want to go because it wasn't public. They would have felt like I was moving the goalpost. So I was willing to take anything. And from their viewpoint, they felt like after the CBS News and the Fox News hits that Erica did, it was... My understanding was that they felt that it was a good idea to bring the temperature down first by having us sit down and communicate. And that doesn't mean that they necessarily say, oh, well, that's it. Now we're not going to have any other public discussion. I'm hopeful they will. I think they should. I totally agree with you. More transparency, the better.
Who else was in the meeting? Erica was there. Who else was there?
Justin Strife, who is the COO of Turning Point USA, and my husband was only there for a portion of it, and my cousin.
So there were no lawyers, for example?
No lawyers. But they did phone their lawyer because I asked the question. I was like, look, I'm open to being wrong, obviously. If there is something...
No, you're not. Saying that you're open to being wrong is a way to throw a bone to somebody else so they can tell you effectively what you want to hear, so you can find a way to twist it. There is nothing that Candace Owens... don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are people out there that are genuinely open to being wrong. Like, hey, you know, give me information, give me data. Candace is not that person, because there's been multiple instances of things that you can prove, and she does, and she doubles, triples, and even quadruples downs on. When she said things like she's left the cult of science, that space is fake and gay, that when you have, that Jews planted dinosaurs in the ground to trick Christians, and we can very easily just use very simple deductive reasoning to show how that is retarded, and let you double, triple, and quadruple down that stuff, you are not open to being wrong.
Which I think the media was kind of hinting at, that they had more, but they couldn't share it with the public. I said, I'm happy to keep my mouth shut, and I want to feel good walking out of here, that there is something there. There is some sort of...
I don't know why you would ever trust Candace to keep her mouth shut.
Just to be patient. And so they did call one of the lawyers working on this case, and it was not convincing at all. He said, in effect, all we have is what the public has seen. And we won't know more because we're investigating and looking for more. And so that just made me...
And that is totally and completely normal. That is, like, yes, that is completely normal that during an ongoing investigation, certain parties don't have information. It's just certain amounts of information. That's 100% fucking normal.
You go, why is everybody being so over the top and ridiculous and using words like the evidence is overwhelming, it was Tyler Robinson, when they don't have anything that's overwhelming?
To be fair, again, I don't know anybody who says the evidence is overwhelming that it was Tyler Robinson. Again, there's nothing wrong with questioning the narrative around Charlie Kirk, but how do you get... All right, let's question the Tyler Robinson story. How do you go from that to this is a massive cover-up by Turning Point and the Jews, and somehow France is involved, and this is actually what Erica wanted so that she could usurp the position and become the CEO of Turning Point? Like, how do you get all of that from the belief that maybe it wasn't Tyler Robinson or maybe he didn't act alone? The two are not congruent with one another. You can still question one while the other be complete and completely and utterly ridiculous.
To show that they don't have a video of him taking the shot, which I think was something that I assumed, like, okay, there's all these cameras, maybe they actually have that video and they're waiting for a moment to release that to the public. They don't have that. Or at least I can say Erica's side has not seen that, and the lawyer communicated to me that they would not have access to that until earliest would be May, that right now they're just investigating, just like we're doing back at home.
Okay, you said that your motive for going to the meeting was that you would be able to come out and tell the world Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. So are you in a position to say that? Do you believe, as a consequence of your 4.5 hours with Erica, do you believe that it is now most likely that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
Absolutely not. I haven't seen one piece of compelling evidence that Tyler Robinson scaled the rooftops like Spider-Man on a college campus that he didn't go to, and fired one shot, a magic bullet shot, and killed.
Okay, let's be real, guys. Even if you don't believe the Tyler Robinson story, that was not a magic bullet shot. That's a very, very easy shot. Even like somebody like me, who's relatively untrained, don't have much more than just general shooting with my family, shooting with my dad's, and police academy marksmanship training and whatnot, that could make that shot. That was not a difficult shot in the slightest.
Charlie Kirk. I have not seen one piece of compelling evidence. In fact, I've seen more compelling evidence to the contrary.
You've seen their vibrant ads illuminating Billion. It's an iconic eight-season orchestra, civilization, is lifting, and you check it out. Visit shenyun.com/Piers to waive all ticketing fees when you order. That's shenyun.com/Piers. Who does Erica think killed her husband?
Well, I think that in her recent PR blitz, she sort of communicated that she trusted her team, and her lawyer was using kind of the same rhetoric that the media has been using, where there's really, this is like, This
is a very simple question. Notice how she weasels around this question. The question was, does Erica believe that homeboy is the one that shot Charlie Kirk? Okay, yes or no. You can give your explanation afterwards, but yes or no. This is classic obfuscation.
No, it's overwhelming. Maybe he didn't say the word overwhelming, but he was like, it's very clear, I think is what he said in particular. And then I pushed back and I said, what's clear? The affidavit? That's all you guys have? And I did tell him, if you would never be my lawyer, because it's just, a lawyer that's just kind of giving you adjectives, and I don't need a cheerleader. I need someone to be practical and to say, we don't have anything yet. I think the communication should be, we are hopeful that throughout this investigation, we are going to uncover more evidence that links Tyler Robinson to this crime. I do feel confident that he was involved in some capacity on that day. As I have said many times on my show, I was the one who broke the story that he was at the Dairy Queen throwing out clothes, a local Dairy Queen, throwing out clothes in a nearby cemetery. And so I do think he was involved, and multiple people were involved that day. And I think he did pick up clothes. I had communication with Lance's family. I had communication with Tyler Robinson's family. And for some reason, Lance is being protected, which I find to be very strange. His own family thinks he's guilty of more, and they find it weird that the feds kind of glossed over him, almost as though he was a Fed operative, like he was working on behalf of them. And we've caught the feds have lied a lot. It's just a fact. Turning Point USA people have lied a lot. That is a fact, which they have agreed to. They said that these were mistakes, but they, whether a mistake or not, the public was lied to. So
no, okay, that is, again, factually incorrect. Now, it is possible the public was lied to. To grant credence to some shit, yes, we've obviously seen the feds lie a lot. Again, check out the Tuesday show, Temple of Haters. You'll hear all about times the feds have lied. But a mistake is different than a lie. A lie requires intent. If I am intentionally telling you the speed limit is 70, go 70 miles an hour, when the speed limit is 60, I am lying to you. If I think the speed limit is 70, and I say, don't worry about going 70, you're fine, that's the speed limit around here, and it turns out I'm wrong, and we get pulled over because you're going 70 and it's 60, that's not a lie, that was a mistake.
This obviously, matters deeply to me, and it's just absurd that people would think that I'm doing this for clicks. I know Charlie. I knew Charlie. Charlie and I are very close, and it has been one of the most disgusting things ever.
If you and Charlie were oh so close, then how come he did not, have you speak or come to any events in the 2 years leading up to his assassination? Riddle me this: why 2.5 years of effectively radio silence between the two of you if you were oh so close?
That people first and foremost tried to start this psychological operation that Charlie and I hadn't spoken since 2019. They've lied about virtually everything that I've said on my podcast. I'm not going to let this go. Okay, I can't. We don't live in a country that is the embodiment of democratic principles. If Charlie Kirk gets publicly executed and the media apparatus is doing everything they can to cover the tracks, I would say to cover the tracks by demanding that there is no further inquiry into what happened on that day.
Right,
that is not a country that I can get behind.
Let's get to some of the details, because it seems to me you've put up a lot of theories, but a lot of them don't seem to have a clear conclusion from you about what...
Exactly. That's the she uses these vague terms without any sort of conclusion because, I don't know, broken clocks right twice a day. Maybe she throws out a bunch of theories. One of them will be correct, and then she can say she knew it all along. Maybe she's just doing shit to get clicks and views on her channel. I don't know what the reason is, but at the end of the day, if there's no end game to your theory, if you've not given us a specific, this is why they did X, why should anyone follow you or believe you? Like, again, she is, I agree with the majority of you that say she's a clout goblin. I think it's that simple. She's gotten used to a certain lifestyle. She's gotten used to being in the limelight, and the only way to maintain that is to continue being a clout goblin. She is no different than, Sneeko or Thomas Doherty or Nina Lynn or any of these idiot 17, 18, 19-year-old streamers you see that do ridiculous shit to stay in the headlines. She is the same, but at the political level.
You actually think happened? I mean, you've been all over this now ever since Charlie was killed. What do you believe happened to him? Who do you think killed him?
So I can't tell you definitively who pulled the trigger. I'm not going to lie to audiences and just put something out there that's not real.
He's not asking you to say definitively who pulled the trigger. He's asking, what do you think? What do you think? What is your theory? That's not telling someone anything definitive. He's asking your opinion.
But what I can say is I feel convinced that the feds were involved. I can tell you that. I think the feds were involved in staging a cover-up. I think Kash Patel knows what happened and did not happen on that day. I am convinced by me being told by people that are feds that he is not acting right and that he is not wanting to share any information. Just a couple...
Wait. So on the one hand, she says, I think the feds are lying. On the other hand, why do you think the feds are lying? Well, because I've got friends that are feds that told me the feds... Wait. So why wouldn't those feds be lying? Where do you get the distinction between what feds are and aren't lying? Double standard much, you dumb cunt?
If people are allowed to even see anything, a fed told me that they can't even touch the Charlie Kirk file without risk of being fired, and that he's grown increasingly mad. The U.S. Marshals that were there when they were doing the quote-unquote manhunt for 33 hours said that Kash Patel effectively sent them on a wild goose chase, which is what was signaled to the public when he said, we got him, and it was actually the wrong person. And so it caused people to stop looking because they were convinced that they had the shooter. They felt that that was in order to allow the real perpetrators of the crimes to get away.
No, but that could just be the fog of the immediacy of these things. We've seen it at Brown University, exactly the same thing. They thought they had the killer. They thought they had the killer. It turned out to be the wrong person. Right? It doesn't mean there's any great conspiracy by the feds to cover anything up. And again, even if what you're saying is true, I don't know. Maybe you're right. If what you're saying is true, what is it they're covering up? You've so far intimated or inferred something weird involving Egyptian planes. So,
which has been thoroughly debunked multiple times.
What's that about? You've inferred perhaps Israeli involvement in some way. You've certainly inferred a lot of Turning Point USA involvement. That's a lot of people getting involved here in the murder of Charlie Kirk, potentially. But what I'm really curious about is, given you've been all over all this and you've been airing all these theories, well, which one is it? It can't be all of these things. Is it somebody?
Well, of course,
is it someone at Turning Point USA? I mean, who do you actually believe was behind this?
Of course, it can be all of those things. And
actually, no, it can't. An operation of that caliber would require so much cover-up, something would have gone through the cracks, there'd be some sort of whistleblower. No, it's, again, let's say the official narrative isn't true, which, frankly, I'm inclined to believe. I'm inclined to believe that the official narrative is not true. Now, it could be half true, it could be partly true. I don't think we've got all the answers. I don't think anybody does. But no, it can't be all of those things. Some of those things are incongruent with one another.
What's really ironic here is that there's a clip of Charlie in the last months leading up to his death where he speaks about the JFK assassination. And he says that multiple countries were involved, multiple people were involved, the LBJ was involved, the feds were involved. And he's correct. That is what it means. When there is a conspiracy, there are multiple people that are involved.
No, that's not what a conspiracy means. A conspiracy is just when something is being conspired against an event, an individual, a piece of information. You can have one person conspiring, and that's still a conspiracy. There's no limit to how many or how few individuals need to be involved for it to be considered a conspiracy. She doesn't even know the meaning of the fucking word she's using.
Of course, there's not one person on a grassy knoll who shot JFK.
Well, it might have been that.
There are people who had to agree to it. There had people who would have had to. The Dallas police were involved.
Candace.
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question.
But my
You're
point
asking,
is,
why aren't you just going to point to one person? That to me, even that seems like a part of telling people not to believe their own gut. Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been multiple people involved. There had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit.
But there really didn't, by the way. There really did. Now, were there likely multiple people involved? I believe so, yes. But there didn't have to be, and so stating it like there had to be is fucking bananas. If you walk up and you murder somebody of your own volition, there does not have to be other individuals involved.
Having this happen, now who knows what their motivations are, doesn't mean maybe this person's like, hey, I'm going to help you.
Hang on, okay, let me stop you, hang on. When you say obviously somebody at Turning Point, you are accusing right now people that worked with Charlie Kirk at the company he built, which is now run by his widow. You are directly accusing people in that company of being complicit in his murder, right?
I want to just be very clear connecting that dot. So I said that when there is a conspiracy, of course, there are going to be multiple people involved. So applying that same logic to JFK.
No, not of course. I can conspire to do something completely of my own volition, solo, without anyone else. That is not what that means.
Right? Knowing, as I do, and as Charlie did believe, that LBJ was involved, which then implicates the feds as having been involved, which then implicates the Dallas police station as being involved. I believe Israel was obviously involved, that they were the ones that wanted him dead for saying that what is now AIPAC should have to register under FARA. So there's motive. There are people that have to be involved on the ground that day. There are people that have...
You didn't list motive at all, actually. You didn't give any sort of motive there. Motive would be what they would receive in return from Charlie's killing. You didn't give any sort of motive.
To be willing to allow the perpetrators to get away, there has to be media that's complicit, and that's what literally Operation Mockingbird was. It was established.
But you know the
Shut
problem,
out,
you know
Hypno.
the problem,
public.
Candace, here's the problem.
Well,
hang on.
It was established.
Yeah,
So
but here's the
everyone then
problem with
becomes
everything you're saying.
complicit in this massive
You
cover-up.
keep saying, and this is where people think you're prone to endless conspiracy theories for whatever reason.
Okay.
Is you keep using the phrase, they have to have been involved. So by that yardstick, what you're saying is, with JFK's assassination, and we recently had a lot of the files released, which did not conclusively prove any of these things, right? Now, again, I don't know what happened to JFK, but the one possibility you've not ruled in is it was just as simple as Lee Harvey Oswald. It might have been. We don't know, right? So when you say the media has to have been involved...
That's not... If it is a possibility, then it is not nonsense. Again, whether it is likely or not is irrelevant. It is possible. Unlikely shit happens all the time. Motherfuckers get struck by lightning. That's a very unlikely thing to happen, but it's possible. It does, in fact, happen. But you say, oh, it's impossible. I'm not even going to entertain it because it's unlikely. You would have to deny the idea that people get struck by fucking lightning.
It's
Lyndon
been
Johnson
too many decades.
has to have been. But my problem is you're stating all these things as
facts. We can't do
facts.
63. It's such a nonsense to say that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting.
You don't
by himself.
know that.
That's just such a nonsense. I do know it was not Lee Harvey Oswald acting.
How do you know? How do you know? Like, explain to me. I don't think this woman knows what the concept of actually knowledge is. I don't think she has any sort of ontological argument for any of this.
by himself, and then that required national security to lock down the files, and that required the feds to impart, the CIA to impart Operation Mockingbird to convince the public that it was, you can't go against, there's a grieving widow, don't look further into it, don't believe your own eyes.
But let me just say, this is your, Candace,
it was
this is
a grand conspiracy that killed JFK.
Candace,
I am going to say that confidently, and I just think we have to grow up. We have to grow up. We can't keep pretending Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK.
Fine.
We can't keep doing that.
Okay. Again, her sentence just now was, we can't keep pretending Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK. By the way, that statement doesn't preclude there being a conspiracy or there being other people involved. We can actually say Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK, and he did it at the direction of the mob or at the direction of the CIA or both. And Lee Harvey Oswald could still be the killer. So mind you, that statement alone is just a factually incorrect statement.
That is your opinion.
All right, skipping the ad, it's Piers, you don't need the money.
£100 or visit Piers code.
It's a fact.
It's an opinion.
No, that's a fact.
No, it's not a fact.
It's a fact.
It's not a fact.
It's a fact.
The whole reason...
This is why women shouldn't be allowed in politics, bro. Even as political pundits, man, I'm getting real tired. I'm going full Ultra Instinct misogyny on this bitch. Just repeating it's a fact over and over doesn't make something a fucking fact. Like it truly does not make something. Imagine we were in the olden times, right? We were in the olden times. Motherfuckers thought the earth was flat. And so it's a fact. Oh, after we could conclusively prove the earth is round, it's like, no, it's a fact. It's a fact. Repeating it over and over doesn't make it true, you dumb cunt.
There are still conspiracy theories about JFK's assassination. None of this is a fact. You are floating it as your theory.
Because the feds are never going to admit to their own crimes. That is the reason we're still discussing it.
That may be the case, but you can't prove that.
Yeah, well, I can prove common sense that Lee Harvey Oswald did not stand on a grassy knoll and assassinate a president. And
Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't on the grassy knoll. What is she trying? She is any sort of credibility or validity she had, which, let's be real, was like next to zero. But any sort of credibility or validity she had is now in the negative numbers when she says Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't on the grassy knoll. Like, yeah, obviously he wasn't on the grassy knoll. He never was. The conspiracy theory is that there were other individuals on the grassy knoll, and they were the ones that took the actual shot while Lee Harvey Oswald was up in the building. What the fuck is she even talking about? She doesn't even know how the JFK assassination went down in terms of the conspiracy to know whether it was it's a fact or not.
Like Charlie says in that clip, which people should go pursue.
Yes, I know Charlie
all
said
of the
that.
weird things that happened that day that were unusual, and LBJ decided not to ride that day. And then suddenly he reversed course on all of JFK's policies, and he was fighting AIPAC. Israel killed JFK.
All right.
Now, going back to your point about Turning Point USA.
Yes.
And
I understand she's a raised spectral heartless. Just like her saying it's a fact over and over won't make it a fact, you saying that over and over ain't going to change the fact that this is what we're fucking talking about today, and I'm giving my opinions on it. Jesus Christ, add somebody to the conversation or shut the fuck up. Saying rage baiter over and over is adding nothing.
Ridiculous idea that implicating, this is a $100 million organization.
Yeah.
Common sense, if this was not even a high-profile political assassination and this was just a guy who worked at a company that was $100 million, right? Common sense inquiry is, was there a financial motive for this person to be dead, okay? This is like Sherlock Holmes 101. And this is what I mean when I say that the public no longer trusts the media because you're acting us to be stupid. And we don't want to do that. We actually don't want to pretend that we're clinical idiots who can't assess things and go, oh, there could be a massive motive here to have Charlie dead, especially when it seems very strange that Bibi Netanyahu, when nobody...
And there it is. I was wondering, to be fair, it took her 23 minutes to mention the Jews. That might be a new record for her holding off that long.
Even had a clue of what happened. This guy's doing the rounds on Fox News and saying, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk. That's kind of weird. Did you feel compelled to jump on to Piers Morgan's show and say, just so everybody knows, I didn't kill Charlie Kirk? Why would he say that?
So I want...
As somebody who's not a fan of Israel, not a fan of Netanyahu, nothing like that, I can I can be objective in this matter and give you a very clear answer as to why he would say that. Because people like Candace and people like what's his name? Her little fucking toady with the mustache. Anyway, the people out there in the media that make everything about the Jews, They were already going to immediately blame Israel. It's a pretty good idea to preemptively say, everybody's already going to be coming at me saying that me or my people or whatnot were the ones that did this. So let's say we didn't do it. Like, yeah, when there's an entire media apparatus that is out there trying to blame the fucking rain on Israel, it makes sense as to why he would say that. This dumb broad is so fucking retarded. She out here got me defending Netanyahu and Israel, which is something I never want to do.
He's so involved that somebody who's fighting a 97,000 front war.
Candace, I want to get to the reality of what you're actually saying. So when you say that somebody at Turning Point USA, Charlie's company, was complicit in his murder, who? Who was?
I believe that there were multiple people.
Then who? Just say, oh, Turning Point USA, Israel, Egypt, France. No, it's a fucking easy question.
At Turning Point, who are, as I have said many times, my exact words are, they are engaged in a cover-up of what happened to Charlie on that day.
No, but who was involved in his murder?
I didn't say that they murdered Charlie.
You said that people at Turning Point were...
If they're involved in the cover-up, that would be being involved in the murder. You dumb slag.
Complicit in his murder.
No, my exact sentence that I said was that there were people at Turning Point who are engaged in a cover-up.
A cover-up of what? Of the murder? Which would mean engaged in some part within the murder? Christ in heaven!
I believe that thoroughly.
Candace, you didn't say that. You said literally.
I did say that on my entire show.
You said there were people at Turning Point complicit in his murder.
Okay.
That's what you said.
When you and I were discussing, that's why I said, let's go back. I was applying the logic of a conspiracy to JFK. I said, okay, if JFK, you have people that are complicit. Of course, if you...
No, it is not possible to be super smart and super stupid at the same time. You've got people that are able to be super smart but have no wisdom. Now, I'll be real. I don't think Candace is either. I do not think she is smart or wise. Again, this is pseudo-intelligence. She uses big words and crazy theories to frame herself as intelligent without actually being intelligent. She is the definition of a midwit.
Apply that logic. If there is a conspiracy, there's going to be multiple people that are going to be complicit by the time, in order for a large stage murder to happen.
You specifically said, you didn't say complicit in a cover-up. You said complicit in the murder. Because I said, who at Turning Point was involved in his murder? And
let
you said...
Let me clarify for you. Okay, you
Fair
can
enough,
say
Dorman.
what I said, or you can listen to what I am saying.
Okay.
When I was using the analogy of JFK and we were connecting it, I was basically pushing back on you because you were suggesting that, you know, all of these people being involved would be crazy. So I was applying the analogy of what happened to JFK. Well, you actually, if you go back and listen, were suggesting that a conspiracy...
I said you don't know either. You're floating theories.
When we started talking about the JFK thing...
Listen, let me make it clear.
Piers, I really think you're not holding on to your thoughts
Candace,
here correctly.
Except for that's exactly what Piers said. Now, dude, we're 30 minutes in, not even, we're 25 minutes in. This broad got me defending Netanyahu and Piers Morgan, because it was neither of which I want to do. Because he did say, he said he doesn't know. It is possible it could have just been a one-man operation. It doesn't mean he believes, which it is. Objectively, it is possible.
Hold on to your thoughts.
Very clearly
when we started talking about JFK, the implication that you were making was that it was crazy to suggest that multiple people could have been involved at different levels.
That is not what he did.
I was then connecting the dots and saying that in order for the JFK assassination to happen, there had to have been tons of people that were complicit,
I understand.
right?
I heard what you said.
Maybe you're the person who takes the cameras down. Maybe you're the person that told him to drive that day. Maybe you're LBJ. So they're not all complicit in the murder, but they're all at different varying stages involved in the cover-up.
Okay.
Right?
The cover-up of what? The murder, which would make you complicit in said murder.
So that's what a grand conspiracy actually is.
Okay.
And I do believe, so you don't have to go back and we don't have to go through it. I'm telling you what I think about Turning Point. You know, I am very known for being honest about what I believe. You're not
Oh my God, no, actually you are not. You are known for lying and grifting and pretending you are honest about what you believe.
I'm not exactly a person that you got to pull teeth on.
Sure.
I believe that there are people at Turning Point who are engaged in covering up what happened on that day.
But were any of them engaged in the planning of the murder of Charlie Kirk?
I wouldn't know how it was planned. Absolutely, I can't make that. I cannot confidently make that statement. I can say confidently that I know they're engaged in the cover-up because I've been investigating what happened on that day and what transpired thereafter. I've been clear. I've named those people on my show. I've said they are engaged in a cover-up, and I've listed the lies. So you don't have to try to make something out of what I didn't say. I tell you what I think. It's already controversial. We don't need to get more controversial, okay? Do I think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger? No. Obviously, I don't think someone at Turning Point pulled the trigger. We don't even know who did pull the trigger. So how can I say that they're...
Did anybody at Turning Point, in your opinion, know that Charlie Kirk was going to be murdered?
There is specifically 2 people at Turning
Yes or no?
Point USA, and I have communicated that information to Erica and Justin Strife that I would not be surprised if they had foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk being assassinated.
But do you have any evidence
I'm not going to name... I am not going to name those people, okay? Because
Yeah, you're not gonna name those people because it ain't true, and you would get your ass sued into fucking oblivion for saying as such. Which, frankly, I wish would happen. I guess she's at least smart enough to understand that much.
it's not right for me to name those people until I know for a fact that they did.
Did you give the names Did you give the names to Erica?
Yes. So I absolutely did.
You gave the names to Erica of 2 employees, current employees at Turning Point, who you believe were involved in the preparation for the murder of Charlie Kirk. Is that what you're saying?
I told them that if I were in your shoes, these would be 2 employees that I would look further into. That's
and what evidence do you have that they had any prior knowledge of the murder?
Because I don't have concrete evidence is the reason why I'm not naming them. So I've been
so you've
responsible.
got no evidence,
not saying,
but you're telling the widow that these 2 people may have been involved in the murder. But you see the problem.
Well, what the evidence for it is people that there was not concrete evidence. It's like you're trying to get me to say something that I never said and then asking me to defend it.
No, I'm asking what evidence
let's
you've
actually
got.
go to. You're asking me privately, did I communicate to them that I think you should look further? That's called an investigation.
But why? Okay, if you have a belief, hey, these individuals might need to be looked into further. If you have a belief, that belief, in theory, should come from some sort of evidence you have. So, what is your evidence to tell Erica Kirk, look into these individuals? Is a very easy fucking question. Or I guess it's easy for those of us that have IQs as high as minimum, 100 or whatnot. Now, again, I don't think Candace Owens has an IQ that high. I think she tapers off probably around 86 or so. But again, this is difficult for her.
Piers, okay? So what you're doing is a strategy of like, if somebody dies, you're saying to the police, you can't ask any questions about anybody unless you have concrete evidence. We're at the stage of investigation.
I'm not saying
yes,
that.
you can. And let me give people in the public the permission to do this. Follow your instinct. If you feel...
Oh, I'm sorry. I was unaware that I actually needed permission from the great Candace Owens. Yeah, truly the Emperor God King.
Something is
Sorry, Queen.
Keep asking questions
No problem.
until you get concrete evidence.
No
And when you
problem at
have concrete evidence, you should name those people.
No
I don't
problem.
have the concrete
But
evidence.
you have named
I
other
find there
people.
inconsistencies.
Okay. But you have named other
I'm trying
people.
to answer. Piers, you can't ask me questions. You can't ask me questions. Let me finish it. I have...
We can if you're not answering the goddamn question.
I've communicated to them that their inconsistencies make me uncomfortable. I have communicated to them that somebody else who is a third party gave me some information that I am not yet comfortable as I am vetting it, giving it to the public, because that's the responsible thing to do. These are private citizens. And that if I were in...
Bro called her the Netflix Alex Jones. That's diabolical. The difference between her and Alex Jones is that Alex Jones is frequently correct.
their shoes and had more...
And no, do not fill out the rest, chat. No, don't do what Spectral is telling you to do.
access to
I
information.
would prefer my channel not get fucking banned.
I would go down that route, okay? Unless I am fully confident that they actually did have something to do, like here is the smoking gun, I'm not going to name those people.
Okay.
But the people I have named thus far are people that I believe are engaged in a cover-up. Like I said, hold me accountable for what I have said.
Well, let's talk about one of those
okay?
people. Let's talk about one of those people,
Cool.
because the Turning Point producer, Blake Neff, wrote this in early December. Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for the show. She has made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie. Now, let's move then to, you said in your podcast that new information was given to you in your meeting with Erica Kirk about Mikey McCoy that's now satisfied you. on a video on the 27th of October, you devoted the whole episode to this guy and his supposedly
I
strange
never said
behavior.
I have information that satisfied me about Mikey McCoy.
Well, okay, well, I'll ask you to
That's not a
clarify.
direct quote.
Okay, well, you can clarify
Okay.
that in a moment. But let's hear what you
Yeah.
said about Mikey McCoy before the meeting.
So we decided to slow this clip down, and we're going to watch this clip slow down so you can see that it is exactly 834 milliseconds from the time that you hear the shot. That is how long it takes for Mikey McCoy to put the phone to his ear. Now, why is that precise timing so important? Because there's no dialing. Mikey didn't have time to dial.
In a world of smartphones where we just tap shit, where dialing has been irrelevant for God, dude, when I call to pay my internet bill, I just Google my internet company and it pops up and I click the call button because the phone number is already a hyperlink. Dial. Is it 1990 fucking 2?
Okay, you can't dial and put your phone to an ear in 0.834 seconds.
No, but you can hit a button in less than a second. Do we even know if the call was incoming or outgoing? It's entirely possible he was receiving a phone call and hit the answer button. Is that possible? Yeah, my pocket calls more people than I do. Exactly. Yeah, you have voice calling. Voice calling is also a thing.
Now, what was the new information that you got in your meeting with Erica about Mikey McCoy?
So I'm sorry your gotcha is not going too well, but I never then said, I am now satisfied that Mikey put the phone to his ear. What I presented to the public, it was what
I
Erica
didn't say
gave to
that.
me.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah.
Yes, I call to pay all bills. I don't like doing anything via the internet because I don't trust it. I want to make sure I speak to a person. I don't even pay through the robot or whatever. I call, I get a person on the line, I make sure that bill is paid with them, and then I end the call. Yes, I am old school like that. I pay all bills through actually physically talking to somebody on the phone.
No.
Yeah, well, you did say
No,
you have
inferred
information
on your
that's satisfied.
podcast. Well, let me give you the chance to clarify. It's a very familiar story when it comes to back. And better personalized. After the meeting with Erica, Piers. You inferred on your podcast after the meeting with Erica that you'd received new information about Mikey McCoy, which had changed your mind. Would that be the best way to categorize it, or changed some of your mind?
No, I never said that. I just presented it. Well, the only thing that I clarified on my podcast, if that's what they're getting wrong, is that some people thought that he was using a nickname that was his middle name, and actually his real name is Michael, like first name Michael, because I was like trying to find something, and I was like, oh, maybe he's actually using his middle name. So that's what I clarified on my podcast.
And you were given
Beyond
call
that,
logs, is that right?
I presented.
You were shown call logs? You were shown call logs?
They gave me a printout of Mikey's call logs, and I gave it to the public. That's it. I mean, they're saying this, and then the public obviously comes
So
back
do you
and says, well,
believe
how do we know
Mikey
that these are...
McCoy had any prior knowledge of Charlie's murder?
I can't say that he had prior knowledge of the murder unless I...
You can say whether you believe something or not. Saying what you believe is not the same as saying whether something is true. I believe that it is possible that in the 1940s or 50s that the U.S. government had contact with little green men. I 100% believe it is possible some shit went down in Roswell, and for the last 70 to 80 years, we've had some sort of alliance with extraterrestrials. All right? That's not saying it definitively happened. I'm saying I believe that it is possible. Oh yeah, right. It is her truth.
That's something concrete. I can't say anything about prior knowledge. What I can say is what happened on that day. Mikey's behavior is weird on that day. I find it weird, like I said in the podcast yesterday.
You're telling me, Garrett.
What has been communicated to the public is like he called Erica instantly. First thing he did was call Erica instantly. And that's actually the call logs.
Are they green or gray? Well, I'll say this. I prefer they be green over gray, just like how I prefer the chat be green rather than gray. Someone donate some memberships. That's right. That's how you grift, baby. Pull a Candace Owens. Let's grift.
Show that he didn't call Erica instantly.
But what are you suggesting
he called
about
his
this
wife
guy?
instantly, and then he had 3
as
ways.
you know, when you've got a massive platform,
and then
but
showing
Candace,
his call logs
here's the
showed that
problem.
Blake Neff actually didn't tell the truth about what happened on that day.
But here's the problem, Candace. You have a massive platform, as you know. Millions and millions of people hang on your every word. When you devote a large part of an entire episode to the strange behavior of Charlie Kirk's chief of staff, you are putting a target on the guy's back. You're inferring it has something to do with this, or something to do with some cover-up, or whatever it is you're inferring. You know what you're doing when you do that. When you saw Erica Kirk, did you say to her that you believed there's something suspicious about Michael McCoy? Was she able to explain to you why there isn't? Or does she share your view that he is somehow complicit in this in some way?
Well, we actually dedicated more time to speaking about his father, who I think it's strange to me that that man calls himself a pastor. I communicated fully that, everything about that man makes my skin crawl. I think he's a bad person. I think he's involved with bad people. And this is obviously, Mikey's a son. And, I asked a bit about Rob McCoy and Mikey McCoy's relationship. I would just like to be clear, I am not going to be emotionally conditioned to believe that asking questions when we aren't getting any answers is the crime itself. The crime was when Charlie...
There's a difference. Okay, asking questions is fine, but you gotta ask the right fucking questions. Imagine if Candace was like, the question really, what do you have for breakfast that morning? What do you have for breakfast that morning? I think it's really, that's an irrelevant question. You're still asking a question, but it's an irrelevant fucking question. What does it matter what Charlie had for breakfast that morning? There's such a thing as irrelevant fucking questions. I would wager 80% of the questions, and I'm being generous, number as low as 80%, 80% of the questions she's asking are fucking irrelevant.
Got shot in the neck. So,
but you've already said, you've already said though, you told Eric...
The easiest way to remove,
yeah,
the
Candace,
easiest way, let me finish. You can't ask me questions, not let me finish.
You're contradicting what you've just said to me.
But you have to...
You said to me earlier,
what did I contradict?
You said you gave 2 names of people in the Turning Point organization that you believe are complicit in some way. You gave those names, but you wouldn't name them because it wouldn't be right to do that. But you did name this guy, Mikey McCoy, who was the chief of staff.
Because his actions are strange. You're 2 different things. Really, Piers, I think you're having trouble holding on to 2 buckets of thought here, okay?
What I had for breakfast this morning, I didn't have breakfast this morning. I did not eat until about 30 minutes before holding my DualShock stream, where I ate provolone cheese, roast beef, and pepperoni.
You said, in regards to someone that was complicit in murder, that is a very serious allegation. I gave them names of people that would not surprise me if they did have foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk's murder. You are now shifting gears and you're asking me about Mikey McCoy and why I am raising red flags about his behavior on that day. Because I believe his behavior on that day was weird.
No, I didn't fail the question. The question is supposed to be, how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning? He phrased it incorrectly. Tiger King specifically said, what did you have for breakfast this morning? Well, the answer is nothing. And so I answered it properly. So yeah, the question is supposed to be, this is the midwit test. How would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning? It poses a hypothetical. That's why you retracted it. Okay, gotcha.
I think it's painfully obvious
so
that
do you
his behavior
believe
was weird.
he's
I don't know
been
people that
complicit?
don't duck when a shot comes down.
Complicit?
So I'm pointing, I'm sorry that I have eyes, and I am agreeing with the public that Mikey McCoy's behavior was weird on that day. Okay, these are 2 different things. Now, if I'm going to make the an assertion that somebody had something to do with planning this murder, I better be damn sure, and I need, if I say that on my podcast, right? That's all I'm saying. I had never made that claim that Mikey McCoy planned Charlie Kirk's assassination.
No, I think like a lot of the claims you're making, it's difficult to work out what you're actually claiming. You're throwing a lot of mud in the air, including people's names, which...
Because that's all she needs to do. She does not actually have to have a conclusion. Candace Owens at no point has to have a conclusion. All she needs to do is throw out a bunch of questions, make her midwit audience start thinking about said questions as opposed to what the answers would be or what the final conclusion would be, and it makes them feel smart, and it makes them feel like she is smart and she is telling the truth because she's delving deep into this, and therefore they send her money. That's what it boils down to. Candace Owens is a textbook grifter.
Immediately then has millions of people chasing after these guys on social media and thinking...
I'm sorry they get caught lying. Like, I'm sorry, what is this? This is like, the public is actually being abused, okay? Let's stop pretending that the victim
Are they, or do you just
Rob
want them
McCoy.
to think they are?
No, the public is being abused because you're basically saying Stop noticing that people at Turning Point USA are lying.
No, I'm
How
not.
dare
No, I'm
Candace
not.
and the public know? Yes, you are.
No.
How dare Candace
But when
and the
there's
public
an
know?
emphatic repudiation of what you're saying.
If Mikey lies and Rob McCoy lies and Blake Neff lies, and yes, all of these people have lied on record after the assassination, and the public goes, hey, that's kind of a weird lie. You're like, how dare you put a target on their back by noticing that they're lying? I mean, what weird psychological operation is this?
Do you believe?
Don't lie.
Okay, but do you
Don't
believe?
lie.
Do you believe Erica Kirk has been lying about it?
No, I have been explicit on my show when people were saying, why aren't you attacking Erica Kirk? I said, because Erica Kirk has not lied. If to the extent that she lies, I will call it out.
Wait. People have been, she believes she hasn't been attacking Erica Kirk? She has absolutely attacked Erica Kirk. She has multiple times stated, well, these don't seem to be the motivations or the emotions that a grieving widow should be going through. How is that not attacking Erica Kirk? I don't think she's attacked Erica Kirk to the extent that she's attacked other individuals, but she has absolutely attacked Erica Kirk.
And that is why I did call out when she lied, okay? When she said Charlie Kirk never received any text messages the night before saying that he was worried about that he was going to get murdered tomorrow. I instantly said, well, here we have it. That's a lie. He definitively did send out text messages to both Dan Flood and Andrew Colba. And when we met in person, she clarified that, okay, yes, that's real. And we didn't know until you said it because he was using a different app and she was checking his iMessages. So to me...
Then that's not a lie. Again, if Erica was being truthful about that they were checking iMessages instead of insert other app here, that's not a lie. That was a statement made based on the information they had at the time, which turned out to be incorrect. Again, lying has a specific meaning. It is deception via intent. If there is no intent to deceive, then it's not a lie. You could just have wrong fucking information.
If you lie, you're going to make an enemy of me. Just don't lie. How about that basic requirement to say to people, don't lie about what happened on that day. Don't lie about what...
She keeps going on and on about the idea of don't lie, don't lie. Remember, folk, those that preach the loudest often have the most to hide. And being so, I will say, yeah, Candace Owens is lying. She's lying about a lot of shit. Why is she lying? Again, who's to say? It could be for money, it could be for clout, it could be for fame, it could be because she wants to be the next, thought leader and take over Turning Point USA or be, a post-Turning Point and have people, follow her more. The point is, Candace is a fucking liar, and we know she's a liar because of her ardent, stances on why is everybody lying? Because those that have the most to hide often project.
You did on that day, because that's the first clue to investigators that person should be looked at further.
All right.
Again,
Well,
this is common sense.
Okay, let's move to something else Blake Neff said. He said Candace has made other stranger allegations involving French paratroopers in maroon shirts, Egyptian Air Force planes flying out of Provo, Utah, and potential underground assassins traveling through unseen tunnels. At one point in early November, she started wildly throwing suspicion on members of Utah Valley's soccer team for wearing hoodies. I could go on. There's always something new coming up. None of it ever pans out because from the start, there's been nothing there. What do you say to that?
He's lying, and that's the reason why Blake Neff is a suspicious character. I mean, him saying that I pointed to a soccer UVU person is complete fiction. I never had discussed that person on my show. Somebody was asking for a clearer photo of the person on X, and I shared it. No suspicion. Never said this person had anything to do with anything. I never covered him as a suspect on my show of anything at all. Didn't ask for more information on this person. That kid instantly responded and said, oh, those are our school colors, and that was it. And Turning Point tried to turn it into a thing. Why are you doing that? Regarding the Egyptian planes, that's a fact. Why are you saying she...
It's not a fact, though. It's actually, again, it was something that was disproven multiple times. Like, did the Egyptian planes exist? Okay, yeah, that part is factual. Were you hours upon hours off on the timing? Yeah, because this broad is so dumb, she doesn't know how fucking time zones work.
Said that there was a military Egyptian plane on the ground that day. There was. In fact, there were two. So why are you pretending that that's like a weird thing to notice? And that is why people have been flagged about these planes. To his other
Let me ask you about the planes.
I'm never allowed to answer a single question that you say.
It's because you keep fucking filibustering because black women don't know when to shut the fuck up. To be fair, most women don't know when to shut the fuck up, but black women specifically.
entirety before you move on to the next
Well, you
question.
can't just keep talking ad infinitum. I'm allowed to ask you another
No, it's
question.
called answering. You just read an entire statement
It's
of
actually
multiple
called
points of
it's called
blinks. I got to
filibustering.
the second point, and you're like, let me ask you a question.
No, I want to ask you. No,
Piers, you already asked me a question. I'm trying to answer the question that you asked.
No, I want to ask you a follow-up specifically about the Egyptian planes, given you've now addressed it, which is, where is the evidence that any of these Egyptian planes were tracking Erica Kirk?
I am going to be publishing the full document because there's not even just 2 planes. There's actually...
Again, it's a grift. Where's the evidence? Well, I'm not going to tell you here. I'm going to make a bunch of claims, get people on the edge of their seats about it, and then I'm going to publish it on my live show, which is where, I'm able to do my ad reads, or I'm able to get these super chats, and where we're able to get ad revenue. Sounds to me a whole lot like a grift.
4 planes that have been flying in,
Yeah,
and I should
exactly,
be
Zalozy. Buy my book.
more thorough because I realized that the
And
spreadsheet
tracking
I posted
Erica
people...
Kirk.
Not that. Let me. Can I just please, without you cutting me off,
Sure.
answer one thing? Okay, thank you. These Egyptian planes, more broadly speaking, now that we have gone deeper onto the planes recognized.
Here's you need to buy the DLC. Downloadable Candace is diabolical.
That the reaction to them is not normal. What we can say is that these Egyptian planes are tied to Israel. They've been flying in and out of Israel with their transponder off for years.
Can somebody, for the love of Christ, explain to me how Atreus can find this gal intelligent, how he can take what she says seriously? Like, man, I get it. 5, 6, 7 years ago, however long ago, it was easy to fall into the Candace Owens trap. We didn't realize she was a fucking retard then. How could Atreus, in good conscience, think this woman is anything more or less than a snake oil salesman with the IQ of a brick at this point?
But regarding the Turning Point USA picture, more broadly speaking, Turning Point USA faith. Okay. Obviously, Erica has been involved in a lot of the church stuff. It's not specifically tracking just Erica. It's Turning Point faith events, broadly speaking. I gave that information as well. I told Justin Strife and Erica, I'm happy to give you this color-coded spreadsheet. There's no question there's a correlation here between Turning Point USA faith in particular, which, by the way, from the beginning of this, I've said something is wrong with this faith contingent, especially because Rob McCoy for a while was heading up that department, and he makes my skin crawl. And so, yeah, I have the evidence for that, and we're going to actually publish it on our website.
Right,
so there can be no
okay.
question, which I should have done from the very beginning.
But let me ask you.
Yes, you should have done it from the very beginning. Why didn't you? If this is something you should have done from the beginning, why didn't you?
Showing that these planes were tracking Charlie at various times. There where Erica is, various times there where Rob McCoy is. But the consistent thread here is faith events like Kingdom to the Capitol tour.
Assuming you're right, and I don't know, but I know Erica Kirk, when asked about this, said on CBS, if you want to go through my flight log, go right ahead. It's very boring. You, Candace, say I was here on this date. I have a photo on my phone to prove I was actually in hospital having contractions. So that's one thing she's directly repudiated. But let's assume for a moment you're right, and that all these Egyptian planes were flying around tracking Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, Faith and Erica Kirk. Why? What is your theory?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, what's your theory then? You must have an idea.
My theory is that we should investigate everything straight.
My theory is that we should... That's not what a fucking theory is, you dumb cow!
That happened on that day so we can figure out what happened.
But are you suggesting that... Are you suggesting
why is everybody
Egypt...
so... Why are we...
What? Why did Charlie Kirk drink water 3 days in a row on the lead up to the day he was assassinated? Maybe because motherfuckers drink water. They get thirsty. They like being hydrated. Again, just pointing something out and then asking a question doesn't inherently make it fucking valid. God damn, this woman doesn't know what a theory is, and she hides behind the guise of, I'm just asking questions.
Pretending that we don't know why we ask questions. Like, why? Like, you're a journalist.
But you
know
have a
what
theory.
this is. You're like, what's going on? What's going
your
on? Why do you
theory?
want to know why these planes were tracking Charlie? Well, my theory is that we are being sold absolute Fed slop. The media is doing their Operation Mockingbird Part 2 scenario by telling us, well, unless you absolutely have a conclusion, you can't even ask the question. Yes, we very well
But it may be,
can.
Candace.
Keep asking consistent questions until we get a clarified explanation for what happened on that day. And right now, we have nothing, okay? And that is the reason why people are watching my show, because I'm the only one not treating them like they're absolute idiots.
Oh, bullshit. You are absolutely treating your audience like idiots. However, you're treating them like they're idiots, and they will only become less idiotic if they listen and trust and believe in you. And then you can lie and say you're not treating them like idiots, and because your audience is full of idiots, they'll eat it the fuck up. Again, Candace has mastered the grift.
Don't have two eyes, and who believe in magic bully theory,
Candace,
and who understand that Egyptian planes should not have been tracking Charlie even 3 times this year would be an anomaly,
But Candace,
okay? They've been tracking him. We don't know where it's going to end, but we are going to keep asking questions until we get clear answers.
Candace, it may be that the person in the media spewing bullshit to the public is you.
No, nice try. It's not. It's
Could
you
be.
by saying, why are you asking questions? Don't you worry about Mikey's feelings? Everyone knows what this is. And like I said, because we have the example, the concrete example of after JFK's assassination, the media members quite literally being put on the payroll of the CIA, we have a historical example that we can look at and go, we're not doing that again. Doesn't matter how many times you keep telling the public that I'm spewing bullshit. It is only because there has not been anything that has come out of this investigation that makes any sense that the public is not listening to. I am sorry to say this, Piers, people like you. And what I love about you and I sitting down is that this exact same time last year, you were doing the same weird questioning and making all these things when I...
Wait, the same weird question. So when Piers is asking questions that you disagree with, all of a sudden asking questions is no longer valid. You cannot make up how room temperature IQ this broad is. Holy shit.
Said that they were committing a Holocaust against the Gazans, and then you changed your mind.
Actually,
Piers,
this time...
I'll see you next year when you change your mind again, and we have more information about what happened, and you realize that the difference between me and you is that I have the courage to take the risks and ask the questions first, okay, before it's popular. You wait until it becomes popular, and then you change your mind.
You may remember that one of your courageous...
Or maybe, like an intelligent individual, and again, I can't believe I'm ascribing this to Piers Morgan, but maybe like an intelligent individual, he waits to make up his mind until there is more evidence, until there are more facts, until there are conclusions that you can draw that make logistical sense when you follow the paths. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, it ain't that hard.
moves was to repeatedly tell the world that Brigitte Macron is a man. As you now know...
And she is.
As you now know, we had a $300,000 bet to charity about this because she's a woman.
Yes.
Is my view.
She's not a woman!
Well, we're going to find out.
Then why'd you just call her a she? Checkmate, Candace.
Out is the point, because it's going to court, they're suing you, and when she proves, as she will, that she's a woman, because it's very easy to prove, and you lose that case, then
so easy that she refuses to do it for years.
But then it will become more obvious to people that, look, I think you're a brilliant operator at what you do. That's, you know, I like you personally, you know that, right? None of this is personal for me about you at all. I just have watched him last year from Brigitte Macron now into the Charlie Kirk story. I think you've developed a modus operandi, which, to put it politely, is you flying what we would call in the world of journalism kites, and just seeing what can cause.
You know, for a second, she heard the word kikes and went, "Oh, I like Piers again."
The most merry hell, therefore get you the biggest audience, therefore make you the most amount of money. And people have, as you know, you've been widely attacked now by a lot of people who say that you're just a ghoul, a vulture. You're doing this deliberately. You're inventing things or just flying ludicrous conspiracy theories to make money. Now, again, Candace, I don't know that you are, but I do know.
Celebrity.
Can you not interrupt me? By your rule.
I do think it's pretty rich. It's pretty rich coming from you, is all I'm going to say. That's me putting it very nicely, given your background, your career, your celebrity involvement, Princess Diana. Wrong messenger is what I'll say right off the top, okay? Wrong messenger. What you are mistaking, or I guess we're not even mistaking because you know what this is. You're talking about power versus the people. And you are always on the side of power first. You're on the side of the Israelis. It's so horrible. And, I'm going to pretend I don't see tens of thousands of Gazans dying.
I've actually been very critical of the Israelis, as you know,
where
in the
your
last
bread
year.
is buttered. Everybody
I've actually
knows
been very
Brigitte
critical
Macron
of the Israeli
has a
government.
penis, okay? It's very easy to present photos of 30 years of your life. Brigitte keeps teasing, Brigitte, nobody asked you for a blood test. We asked you for some photos and you refused to do it. And everybody knows that Charlie Kirk was not shot by Tyler Robinson on a rooftop. I am sorry that in this day and age, there seems to be such a shortage of testosterone that a woman has to be the person that states the obvious, right? I invite you to join me, and I know that you will by the end of next year, because they're not going to get away with what they did to my friend Charlie Kirk. And I am not going to change my mind, least of all when I am being...
And there it is. I'm not going to change my mind. Really, because if I recall, and maybe I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed, a few fries short of a Happy Meal, whatever, but at the beginning of this interview, you said you could be wrong. You're open to having your mind changed. Hey, if you're wrong, you'll admit you're wrong. You'd like to be proven wrong. You said that emphatically. And now, an hour and what was this? 45 minutes later, after you've been pressed and put into a fucking corner, you say, I'm not going to change my mind, and that's the real Candace. Because now that you're emotionally flustered, now that you got the mental capacity to keep up with the line of questioning, the truth comes out. You ain't changing a goddamn thing.
Called names by someone who has quite a year background and experience in doing things because it's lucrative and not always because it's sensitive.
Sure,
It's always lovely.
You can call me a hypocrite as much as you want. I don't care. It's fine. I'm just simply saying what other people have been saying about you. I didn't say I felt that.
Thank you.
I said
I'll let you know what people are saying about you too. I'll keep you posted on what people are saying about you.
I read it all the time. But I would say that, like I said at the start of this interview, I don't know whether any of the things you're saying are true or not. I just do know you're saying a huge amount of stuff. It's making you very wealthy. You're getting millions and millions of people coming in, which by the way...
What is this idea that's making me very wealthy? Can you actually explain that slowly
Yes,
for
I'm going to
people?
explain it to you slowly, because I had a huge run-in, for example...
This is just like a talking point.
No, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean. When Sandy Hook happened and Alex Jones began weaponizing the Sandy Hook tragedy and weaponizing the grief of the poor parents who'd lost their children. And I began to attack him in public. And then eventually there was a court case, and it turned out he'd been spewing deliberate lies, and that every time he spewed them, they found he made hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in the immediate aftermath of spewing the repeated lies that it was all staged and the families were actors and so on, which he knew to be lies, and he made himself extremely rich and ended up with $1 billion defamation finding against him because he'd been deliberately weaponizing people's grief. And the charge...
Yeah, I'm asking you to explain the actual financial metrics. How was he making...
Yeah, notice how she doesn't like it when he filibusters, when he gives the long answer. Oh, she gets real upset spaghetti about that. I'd say the pot's calling the kettle black, but that would be a little bit too on the nose. Can I say it'd be a little too on the nose, or is she going to think that's a Jewish remark?
I'm explaining to you the analogy, which is there are, as you know, right now, a lot of people, from Tim Pool to the New York Post to others, who've come out very stridently in the last week, and say that's exactly what you've been doing with Erica Kirk.
Yeah, but you haven't answered the question. So this is just made up. As I said, this is just all fluff. You're suggesting that I'm making money. Did I sign a new advertiser? Are we reading more ads? Do we put this somewhere else? Do we sign a book deal?
The more views you get on YouTube, the more money you make.
Did I sell a T-shirt? Okay, but like, come on now, Piers. Money on YouTube? Are you kidding me? I was already in a top 10 podcast globally before Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
Yeah, and more money, more viewers still means more money. People are always chasing that bag. Like, that's not an unrealistic thing. Like, what? People just hit $1 million and all of a sudden they chill? They cool? They don't ever go after more money beyond that? Money on YouTube? Bitch, I got paid $100 for a 37,000 view video. Yeah, if you would start getting millions upon millions of views throughout the course of a month, more than you normally were getting because you're just peddling this bullshit, that's going to be a whole lot more money. It's a very obvious and, like, credible question to ask.
And if you think that I would want my friend to be assassinated so I could go from being in the top 5 to being #1, you're out of your mind, okay?
I'm telling you,
it's so disrespectful.
I'm telling you.
But like, the point is that everyone who is saying that I'm making more money cannot say how I'm making more money because it's just not true, okay?
They can very easily say how you're making more money. You are getting more viewers off the Charlie Kirk shit than you had prior to the Charlie Kirk shit. More viewers means more money. It is that simple. But again, I wouldn't ask a black woman to do simple math.
So you're like, oh, she got a bump in viewership talking about Charlie.
Your YouTube numbers
everyone in the world because it was a public assassination. And then it went up in the weeks following, and it went back to normal.
Candace, are your YouTube numbers up since you've been doing the Charlie Kirk investigations?
What I am saying to you is that this is the exact...
Notice how she didn't answer that question. Are your numbers up since you've been talking about the Charlie Kirk assassinations? Well, what I'm saying is that, yes or no, bitch? Yes or no? It should be a very easy question to ask. Even somebody like you, who don't seem too keen on simple mathematics, a little bit of arithmetic, should be able to answer whether or not number got bigger.
same argument you guys had about Brigitte. So it can't, and then the same exact
Yeah, but I
same
think you were
argument
lying
that
about Brigitte.
the,
You know
about the
that.
Blake Lively thing. Okay, but what about the Blake Lively thing? So you can't keep saying that, oh, she's always in the top 10 because she's talking about something. Or this is my podcast and it's me. It's just me. People enjoy my podcast because I don't treat them like they're idiots. I don't treat them like they
I mean, it could be you, and you as a person can be a filthy, fucking, grifting, lying piece of shit. They're not mutually exclusive.
should accept that Brigitte Macron just can't present one photo of herself raising her kids across 30 years. It's just too much to ask. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. How dare you? It's such an intrusion of privacy. She'd rather file a transatlantic lawsuit than to just produce photos and put all of this to bed. That's the difference between you and I. So now there's this lie, this repeat lie from Kamala Chronicles, which we did, looking into Kamala's background because it was relevant to the election cycle. Then we did the Blake Lively lawsuit, and they said, oh, she's trying to change her brand. That's the only reason her numbers are up. Then we went to Brigitte, which I lost, by the way. I had to get a whole career change when I first covered that story. So joke's on me if I'm doing this to make money, but I was willing to be fired to tell the truth. And then it's all about Brigitte. And now we've arrived at Charlie Kirk.
It's not a career change to go from podcasting on the Daily Wire to podcasting on your own show. Your career stayed the same. You're fucking doing political narration, political podcasting. Again, fucking moron, bro.
I feel like there's something about that actually is just people not being willing to admit that what people appreciate about me and why they keep coming back is that I'm willing to take risks to tell the truth.
No, I think don't get me wrong.
No, let's be real. What people appreciate about you is that you a token. Let's call it what it is. What people appreciate, because you got dumb, right-wing individuals. Obviously, not all right. What I'm saying is those that are on the right wing that are spending their time consuming Candace Owens content are retarded because they're tokenizing her. It is what it is. It's fine. Basically, just saying, oh, look at that. We got a black woman on our side, so now we can't inherently be racist against all blacks. This is the good one. They're tokenizing Candace, and that's where you get your views from. Because it makes Whitey feel good that they can listen to and agree with the black woman. I'm sure that is at least part of it. Maybe not all reviewers. A lot of reviewers are probably just fucking retarded. But I'm sure there's a lot of them. They're like, yes, I like the fact that a young black woman agrees with us old white dudes.
I was already sold out on ads to the end of the year because our podcast was successful. Yeah, I have not sold a T-shirt, nothing with his name on it. It's just...
And mind you, that tokenizing absolutely goes both ways. Because Piers Morgan, 100% a token as well. He a old school fucking boomer journalist liberal type. But he's a token that the right wing likes to use because he's one of the few people that, will actually, in some instances, say and agree with right-leaning shit. People tokenize Piers Morgan the same way they tokenize Candace Owens.
Me.
Candace, the reason I told the Alex Jones story is he did incredibly well out of Sandy Hook with his investigations. But as was established in the court case against him brought by the families eventually, and I think we're going to see the same thing with Brigitte Macron and you, is that he was weaponizing deliberate lies for money. And I think you
Brigitte
did that.
Macron has a penis. I really want you to know that.
Brigitte Macron does not have a penis.
Brigitte Macron has a penis.
No, she doesn't.
I'm sorry.
She had 3 children.
Did she?
Yeah, we got 2 motherfuckers here that are just saying, she does, she doesn't, she doesn't. It doesn't fucking matter, all right? None of that fucking matters. I really could not give a fuck less about what some French dignitary in a country that doesn't fucking matter, that's being overran by Muslims grabbing and raping their 9-year-old girls, has a dick or not. I'm more curious as to why, the French dignitaries are letting these Muslims into their country, as whether or not one of them got a cock.
Get it removed?
She had 3 children.
Yeah, you can have adopted children, you can call somebody, but Brigitte Macron was born a dude named Jean-Michel Trogneau. And I just feel, I want you to know that. I want you to know that Brigitte Macron probably stands peeing up. Probably pee standing up is what I want you to know.
The beauty is we have a big bet.
I think Brigitte
we have a big bet, and we're going to find out because it's going to court. And, you will lose.
And guess what? When it comes out that Brigitte Macron is, a woman or whatnot, Candace is going to lie and throw a fit and say that they doctored the records. Oh, they didn't even really get her DNA. It could have been someone else's DNA. Like, it will never, no amount of evidence will ever satisfy this dumb slut unless it's the outcome that she wants.
That court case. I think you will.
Yeah. I am not going to lose a court case because Brigitte is presenting evidence that Brigitte was born a woman, because that's never even been offered. That's just their PR coming after and saying these things. Nobody believes that Brigitte Macron is just unable to present any pictures. Nobody's asking for blood.
All right,
No,
well, let's wait for the court case. Let's wait for the court case.
Okay, great.
Now, look,
and you will be proven wrong again unless
the
there's
fallout,
just federal corruption.
Okay, in the fallout.
She just gave it away. Unless there's federal corruption. Gave her playbook away. Again, she's not going to be satisfied with the answer unless it's an answer she doesn't like. And if it's an answer she doesn't like, she's going to claim federal corruption. Dumb hoe.
From your encounter with Erica Kirk, Nick Fuentes said Candace Owens is done.
All out.
What a letdown.
Oh, LOL.
Tim Pool has called you evil.
Hey, ACSP 111, thanks for the sub. Truly appreciate you. Piers looked better with Joe covering his face.
You're motivated by the fact you were secretly in love with Charlie Kirk. Is that true?
This is such ridiculous. Like, this is what I mean when I say, like, it's like LOL Fed slop. Oh, did Tim Pool say that I was secretly in love with him? This is, it's so, come on, there's no substance to this. This is so ridiculous. It's by any means necessary, come out and attack Candace. The New York Post did an article that it was honestly amazing fan fiction. They even said that we used to work at Daily Wire. I'd throw my keys at my staff, and my staff hated me. I did not drive to work a single day when I was at the Daily Wire. They had a driver take me there. So we're just now in this weird spot where they're just making things up every single day. They said that my husband had a Qatari passport, and I just ignore it, and I keep investigating because I know what it's meant to do. It's meant to distract me. I'm very aware of what these people are trying to do, and it's not working. So I don't really feel moved by the rantings of Nick Fuentes and Tim Pool.
All right. Which of your theories when you were with Erica did she think was convincing?
We didn't. What do you mean by that?
What did she think that it?
You know, I would say she was obfuscating with that. Which of your theories did Erica Kirk, think was convincing? What do you mean by that? I would say she's obfuscating with that answer, but in all reality, I think she is truly too dumb to follow that line of questioning. She actually did not know what Piers could have meant by that.
Israel was involved? Did she think that there were French paratroopers involved? Did she think the Egyptian planes were complicit? Did she believe that Turning Point employees were involved? Which of the many theories
I wasn't. I guess.
Did she think is actually got any merit to it?
I think you're characterizing it like I sat down and tried to convince her of my theories. That's not.
Motherfucker, you guys sat down for 4.5 fucking hours. I'm sure you talked about your goddamn theories.
That wasn't the nature of the meeting that we had. I shared information with her and told her, what the feds were ignoring, and these are the things that I'm looking into. Obviously explained to her about the Egyptian planes and this bizarre connection to, Turning Point faith events and tours. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of like sharing the information with her. So there was nothing that...
But again, here's my problem, Candace, with the whole thing.
I don't know what to say.
Everything is like, you're just asking questions, you're sharing information, you're doing this. But when I actually ask you to be specific about, well, who do you think did what, that's where it all hits a shuddering halt. You don't know, do you? You don't actually know anything.
Of course, if I actually knew who shot Charlie Kirk, I would be instantly publicizing it. I'd say, I figured it out. That's not how an investigation works. Piers just doesn't work like that, okay? You have to follow the clues until you arrive at a conclusion. Of course, I cannot confidently state that it was, John Smith who shot Charlie Kirk from the left side. I don't know that yet. I don't know that information yet. And when
Okay, but you can have theories. You can have thoughts. You can have guesses. Most people have theories and thoughts and guesses about anything based on evidence at hand. Like, all right, if we see a video game that has Sweet Baby Inc. involved, we can theorize that it's gonna be woke slop. Now, information can come out, the game can come out and turn out that's not true. But we can at least have an idea the conclusion will be that it is, and then we'll see whether we were correct in our assessment when the information is revealed. That's how normal fucking humans problem solve on the day-to-day basis.
I do know it. I will publicize it without question. I just am pointing out the inconsistencies, the lies. He was not shot with 30-06, and he did not have a Man of Steel neck,
how do you know?
That's completely made up. Well, actually, that's going to be my show today. I do now factually know that that Man of Steel thing was made up and that never came from the surgeon's mouth. So again, we have another lie. We have another lie coming out of Turning Point USA. And put in quotation marks that lie, that it was a direct quote from the surgeon. That was made up. So yeah, I'm going to keep track of all of these lies, deliver them to the public, and allow them to surmise. I'm going to allow them to think.
Simple question. Very, very easy to answer question. Let's say Candace was 100% correct, right? Let's say that she had these third-party contacts, all these people were sharing information. Why would they only share it with her? There's a million journalists out there, a million investigators. In fact, people that don't agree with the narrative of Charlie Kirk, but also don't agree with Candace Owens here. Crowder, Tim Pool, Piers Morgan himself. Why would these go-tos only go to Candace when there are hundreds of other independent journalists out there that you would want to give this information to make this story more prevalent, to get more people rallied up to it, to try and force the government and the feds, whoever it may be, to be honest about this? Why would they only go to Candace? You're telling me that they didn't go to anyone else? They didn't go to the Daily Wire? They didn't go to Crowder? And they didn't go to Tim Pool? They didn't go to lefty outlets that, like, could let's be real, the left hates Israel. The left doesn't like Israel. Let's say it was really Israel. You don't think they would go to, like, Bill Maher or somebody like that? Give me a fucking break. Yeah, because they only have a voice. Yeah, because they're actually voices in Candace's head. Exactly.
Critically, while it's still legal.
Hey, Jim Woodward, thank you so much for the sub.
Barely legal in the UK, and it's becoming increasingly less legal here in the United States. So I'm going to use every opportunity to ask every question.
Okay, but pre the meeting with Erica, you repeatedly questioned why we weren't being told where Charlie Kirk is buried, or even if he has been buried yet. Did you?
She's going to deny this. I literally watched the episode where she made these claims. She's about to lie through her fucking teeth.
Get those answers?
You have the wrong commentator who questioned that. I think that was Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, no. Candace questioned that. She absolutely did. I watched it happen.
You've never questioned, you've never asked where Charlie's buried?
Nope. I just communicated to the people that he had a Catholic funeral mass, which...
No. What Candace said, and I will, what's it called when you give a version that's not, a direct quote. Either way, what Candace said, in effect, was Erica Kirk is hiding where Charlie is buried. She can't expect the public to accept that when she's been so forthcoming with everything else, with the memorial. Why would she hide that when she's been forthcoming with everything? Paraphrase. Thank you. Paraphrase. Yeah. To paraphrase what she said was that Erica Kirk has been so forthcoming with everything else about Charlie Kirk's death. Why would she hide where he is buried? You can't expect to be able to hide where he was buried after you've been so transparent about everything else. That is what Candace Owens said.
Because people were saying I was lying about him going to a Catholic church, which was another random attack that I had to endure.
This was shot after her meeting with Erica Kirk.
So I never said that people don't know where Charlie Kirk's buried. That's just the wrong commentary. Wrong commentator.
Do you know where he's been buried?
I actually genuinely never got to that question with Erica, but I do know where he's... I think the implication that Milo made, again, you'd have to ask him, was that he's not buried. No. I do know where there is a spot for him to be buried or to be held in a mausoleum, but I never, that's just, yeah, you have the wrong person on that.
Erica was emphatic in the CBS thing that she wanted you to stop with the conspiracy theories, or maybe you've got it all right, and all of this stuff is true, and it's all involving the Israelis and Egypt and Turning Point in a mass conspiracy with this young kid, Tyler Robinson, brought in, and they're all involved in this dramatic murder of Charlie Kirk. Maybe let's just assume for a moment you're 100% right. But she did tell you publicly before you met to stop. What's clear is you're not going to stop. So is she okay with you now continuing to talk about your theories, or does she still want you to stop?
Well, she didn't ask me to stop. Is that the...
I mean, she literally asked people who are doing this, i.e. you, on multiple interview junkets to stop. Yes.
If that's the question that you're asking, is throughout that meeting, did
Well,
she
she
say,
did
"Can you
publicly,
stop?"
obviously. So your response to that is what?
I'm telling you that then we had a conversation, and I was not asked throughout that conversation to stop. And to the contrary, I shared information that I had, and I got information from them.
Right.
That helps
So
me
you will
to
carry on
focus.
You will carry on
Yes.
with the theories.
Yes. Until I feel confident of who killed Charlie Kirk, I will not stop.
Exactly, Johnny.
Investigating
Correct.
this.
And Erica is okay with you doing that?
I don't know how many other ways to answer your question other than saying she did not ask me or request for me to stop in person. And when we spoke about that moment, she felt that Barry Weiss was being Barry Weiss.
And she made no request of you whatsoever, Erica Kirk, in 4.5 hours?
Request in what sense?
About
This dumb hoe requested was it? Did she fucking ask something of you, you dense coon?
how she would like you to conduct yourself about the murder of her husband going forward.
I think I'm going to have to make this one members only after that. Fuck.
No.
Nothing at all.
No, she didn't make a request for me to conduct myself in
And
any
she
way
expressed
going
no
forward.
concern
I mean,
about
I
any
think-
of the theories that you've been
I
putting
think
out.
she probably knows me through the lens of her husband, so I don't know if that would be a thing that she would have done. But no, she did not. She did not ask me to conduct myself in any way. That seems to just be coming from the media of how I should conduct myself.
Am I right in thinking that your mind has taken you to a place where you genuinely believe that Israel, Egypt,
Yeah, we're still live now, so
Turning
there's
Point
that.
employees, and Tyler Robinson, and potentially others, but they were all involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Well, to be fair, I think we're all putting Egypt in parentheses because we kind of don't think that we have exactly a strong Egyptian lobby here in the United States. And there is a lot of historical precedent with Israel kind of using Egyptian planes or using the Egyptian narrative when they want to accomplish things. So, I mean, I just pointed out that this is an Egyptian plane, but Israel, I got tons of questions about. Yeah, I think
What a shock!
Israel is a very good place to start when Bibi Netanyahu is just denying and just way too involved in the beginning. That was weird. Everyone felt it was weird, and they were right to feel that it was weird. And when Bibi admits that he called him two weeks before and invited him to Israel, like, what's that about? People are being... And also because it just happens to be that from the very beginning, Zionists don't want us investigating the Charlie Kirk assassination. So it's just, I would say, the usual suspects. You are correct that I have...
Zionists don't want us investigating that, or maybe folk in general, especially anti-Zionist bitches like myself, don't want you muddying the waters with your crackpot conspiracy theories that hold no water whatsoever, that many of which have been debunked time and time again when you don't even have theories for conclusions.
Have and sent information, and it has not been denied by the Élysée Palace, the White House, or the Pentagon, that the French Foreign Legion was on the ground that day. Again, something that I flagged to Turning Point USA, Justin Strife, that for whatever reason, the feds don't want this information, which is a bit strange, or don't seem to be interested, or maybe
So
they're
we add
pretending
the French
they're
Foreign
investigating
Legion
it.
to the list as well.
Yeah, but the French Foreign Legion is like a bandit of, I mean, what I've learned about them now is it's like it's a bunch of different countries. It's not just French people. And yeah, that all sounds about right to me. Is there anything else I can answer?
You know, I think we've probably covered it. It's a lot of people involved in this murder. And my guess, Candace, for what it's worth, is it'll turn out none of that is true. And that it was Tyler Robinson who, for his own politically motivated reasons, hence brandishing the bullet casings with words like anti-fascist slogans and so on, that's why he did it. He believed that he'd been led to believe Charlie Kirk was a fascist, so he had to kill him. Which is a different issue about why I feel so strongly that these words shouldn't be bandied about, because in deranged young minds, it can have that effect on them. We see it time and again. But look, if it turns out that you're right and that Charlie Kirk was murdered by a group of people, including the French Foreign Legion, Egypt, Israel, Turning
not
Point,
Egypt, but go
his
ahead.
own employees, and they were all in on this to murder Charlie Kirk, you will be proven 100% right. And I will be the first to salute your brilliant investigative journalism.
Yeah, spoiler alert, that's not what's going to happen. Mind you, I don't think we're going to get any answers to this anyway, at least not for a long, long time. Government be awful good about covering shit up. Here we are, 70-ish years later, and we still ain't got the fucking info on JFK, nothing concrete. So we're never going to fucking know. But what I can confidently say is that Melanie Black here is full of fucking shit. What up, J-Mac?
But in return, if it turns out you're completely wrong, then I would expect you to come back on Uncensored and admit you were completely wrong. Is that a fair deal?
I was
What up,
hoping that by the
Simon?
time we did this, I'd be able to do that because they showed me something that was so compelling. That didn't happen. So, yeah, deal is on, as always. Between you and I, the deal is on.
Excellent. I'll add it to the list. Candace, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. We're both Christians. We have that in common. And it's always good to have you on Uncensored. I'll say this about you. I say this to everyone. You come and do these things. You don't duck them. You don't shirk them. You don't hide away. You stand behind what you say. My only question for you...
No. Candace Owens absolutely ducked Steven Crowder. Candace Owens ducked Steven Crowder, probably because she knows that Steven would have gone way harder on her than Piers did.
It's not for you, it's about you. Is when people say to me, do you think she believes this stuff? I don't know. I don't know if you do or not. I know
I
that
don't.
Alex
I don't think
Jones
she
did
believes
when
this
he-
shit
So
for a moment.
fun being able...
Like, I don't know. It could go one of two ways. Candace has either been telling herself the lies so long that she now does believe her own lies. Because that's the thing. You tell yourself a lie long enough and you will believe your own lies. So either Candace knows she's blatantly lying and she's just grifting, which is honestly what I think is most likely. Or maybe she really has been drinking her own Kool-Aid so long she fucking believes that shit.
lone person to be attacked every second and every minute of every day.
Oh shit, is that... I saw that pic on X, J-Mac, and I liked it. I didn't realize you were at AmFest. I didn't know what that event was. That's fucking awesome, dude.
Just like, you know what, this is so fun for me. I love it. I love the threats of losing your job.
Yes, Melanie absolutely made up BS conspiracy theories, but that's neither here nor there.
And people going after your sponsors and having to worry about your security. It's so fun. You know, it would be so easy. I would be a billionaire. I'd be on the cover of Vogue magazine if I would just say the thing. If I would just be a federal operative and tell people to trans their kids and tell them like Brigitte's like a really beautiful woman and tell them that Charlie Kirk was shot by one person on a rooftop with impeccable luck who scaled the rooftop like Spider-Man. That's the easier route in life. Unfortunately, spiritually, I can't do it. I'm just my granddad's granddaughter. And he couldn't lie, I can't lie. And I don't want my kids to grow up in a world where a bunch of freaks and pedophiles are in power, which is in the circumstance that we live in today. We cannot live in a world where Jeffrey Epstein is being protected by the government and Charlie Kirk is being publicly assassinated. I can't do it. I won't do it. And
Yeah, I agree with that. Too bad your antidote to that is lying and grifting and capitalizing on that lack of transparency from the dumb fucks in charge. I loathe this woman. I loathe this woman. She has done more damage to the Conservative Party than anybody but maybe Pam Bondi. And honestly, maybe even more than Pam Bondi. Because you know what? After Trump's second term, Pam Bondi will come and go. This dumb broad will still be here.
the chips fall where they may.
Candace Owens, always good to have you on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is...
So yeah, that was that. That was the entire episode. I think the big takeaway from this is that Candace Owens, she is so deep down the rabbit hole of lying, of grifting. I don't think at no point did she offer any compelling evidence. She wasn't even, in my opinion, intellectually honest. She couldn't offer theories. She wouldn't name names. Everything was hearsay. We have to just, it was very trust me, bro. My sources trust me, bro. Nothing adds up. And honestly, Piers did a fine job of taking her to task, but not as much as I would have wanted. Not as much as I would have wanted. Then again, I guess maybe if your interview style is let them bury themselves, it worked in that regard. I would be hard-pressed to find anybody that's not already a Candace Owens fan that would have come across that and become a Candace Owens fan. And that's the difference between that in the Nick Fuentes interview. In the Nick Fuentes interview, I could see a lot of people actually becoming fans of Nick Fuentes because he so thoroughly bodied and dog walked Piers. Like, that interview did not go Piers' way. Whether you like Fuentes or not, that interview did not go Piers' way. This one absolutely did. I don't see anybody just flocking to Candace's show after this. But that's enough of the Candace Owens stuff. We got a couple more videos to go through. We can go on a little bit longer, right? Because we still got the Joe Rogan UFO conversation, which I'm sure will be interesting. And then we're going to talk about some gaming shit. So, our government just shot a UFO. Press X to doubt.
Our way.
It probably is. And it seems, I mean, my experience on this front is largely from a military angle and looking at a lot of the footage that's coming out and a lot of the sensor feeds that have come out. And the thing that what we really need even more than discovering microbes, like these flying objects.
Yeah.
The problem is that most of them, and I'm not saying all of them, most of them, we're only capturing them on, let's say, one sensor.
Now, mind you, I actually do believe the idea that our government, quote-unquote, shot a UFO, and by that I mean UFO means unidentified flying object. I don't believe we was taking pot shots at ET. If this happened, it was probably some sort of, a foreign agent that's got some sort of tech. That's what I'd be willing to wager a guess on.
Camera is seeing it, or a radar is seeing it. It's very rare to get both of those totally different types of sensors looking at it at the same time. It's relatively easy to imagine a world where a sensor would have an error or an artifact, or even that's being actively spoofed, right? Like people are actively trying to trick it. You can make radars see things that aren't there. You can make cameras see things that aren't there if you're really smart about how you interact with them. It's very hard to make something that makes a radar and a camera see something that isn't there in a way that perfectly aligns with what is there. Now, you saw the recent one with the Hellfire that was fired, and it appears to have broken up but then kept moving.
Yeah.
That's interesting because now you have something that's on a camera, and you sent another thing with a seeker, and it got there, and it blew up.
Is that definite, real footage?
I mean, I believe...
It's been verified?
The fact that there wasn't a hard yes there, I believe, likely means no.
I am probably not in a position where I should say if I know if it's been verified, but I'll tell you this: I believe the footage is real.
Let's run it through Perplexity and ask.
What do you mean by verified, though?
Just ask if it has been verified that this is legitimate footage from the military of whatever they thought it was going to be, and a Hellfire missile hits it.
I do believe that one of the members of the unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah, and one question tumbles the house of cards. Bingo, bango, bongo.
Committees in Congress introduced it into a hearing.
That's where it came from. It came from a hearing.
Yeah. So
who released it?
It didn't just show up on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Which guy released it? But the question is, why would we assume that it's a biological entity?
Well, not only that, it came from a military hearing. Okay, and the example that I point to you guys all the time, and you know what? I'll give you some visual reference. Mars photos faked. Let's see. Where's the common one that I pull up? Because it's a very easy. Here we go. This one right here. If government agency NASA is willing to fake photos of the colors of fucking Mars, why wouldn't they release fake photos of a UFO? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need more than what the government just revealed in some sort of hearing for me to buy this.
It doesn't have any windows. It's this round thing that looks like a Tic Tac. If there is some sort of advanced propulsion system, some revolutionary way of moving through space and time that the U.S. government has developed, in some Black Ops program, that seems very likely impossible. That seems more likely than aliens visiting us.
Agreed.
But there's more than one incident, and there's a lot of these things. And the possibility of alien life in the universe, although we've never experienced it, seems rational. It seems very rational. And if you were going to study an emerging civilization that is both primitive and warlike and yet insanely technical.
If the government says it's UFO, it's probably not. Well, not really. If the government said, again, UFO could mean anything. UFO could mean a Russian drone. If they mean that it is an extraterrestrial piece of tech, yeah, I agree. They're probably lying.
Technologically advanced to the point where they have nuclear weapons, they can transmit video through the sky, they have propaganda, they have tracking of their citizens. Like, that's us. That's us right now. And while we are these territorial, primal beings with fucking nuclear weapons, this would be a good time to start exposing yourself.
Yes.
And to stop this nonsense.
Insanity.
Yeah, and look, the reason why we named the rooms at our club Fat Man and Little Boy is because in UFO lore, that's when they started showing up. After the detonation of the atomic bombs in Japan, that's when the UFO sightings ramped up.
And they ramped up mostly in the U.S., right?
Yes.
So that's interesting because the U.S. was the nuclear power. So.
And we were the one who was doing a lot of fucking testing.
Yeah.
You know, and also we have all these military bases. Who the fuck has more military bases than us?
No.
Again, why does that mean anything in terms of how that ties to UFOs? Yeah, clearly the #1 global military power would want to have military bases all over the world. Only in the Midwest. No, there's a lot of aliens, supposed alien UFO sightings all over, like the West Coast, like Mount Shasta. Pretty sure Mount Shasta's the West Coast. Let me make sure. Where is Mount Shasta? Oh, yeah, it's California. That's what I thought. So, yeah, Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta's an episode we need to do for tinfoil haters, mind you. But, yeah, no, I mean, you see a lot of this stuff in the Midwest, but you also see it, like, you know, Point Pleasant, Virginia, before the Mothman stuff, had UFO activity. That's not the Midwest. So, you see UFO activity all over the country.
Who has more nuclear weapons pointed at other people than us? We have them all over the place. And there's all these multiple sightings and eyewitness accounts of like very credible people who say these things have hovered over military bases.
It'd be pretty cool if these aliens were benevolent overlords. And they were like, hey, my children.
Yeah.
You know?
Or maybe even so advanced intellectually that the concept of an overlord is preposterous. And they're just biological management.
Shastacola is good.
Just the gardeners tending to make sure the weeds don't get out of hand and just like let this process continue to play itself out. Because this process of technological innovation it's the everything that humans do.
Yeah.
It's what we do at the pinnacle of our creation is we make better technology.
Well, I always wonder about fractals and whether or not, like, this idea of this being a simulation, this being, you know, like we are kind of replicating, we are creating machines and doing our best to create them in our own image, right?
Yes.
And that's interesting. You know, that's because the mythologies that we subscribe to are the idea that this God that we pray to made us in his image. Right. And we're doing the same thing now with...
I mean, I get where he's going from a philosophical aspect. That's an interesting way to take it. I think it's more of a practicality thing. If we're making these automatons to do human tasks in place of human, wouldn't we also want them to look human? Because we know that we can do the tasks, so we would need something human-esque to make the tasks, to do the tasks. Unhide. Yeah, Franz Paskov, if you were accidentally hidden, we'll unhide you. That was an accident from one of my mods, but you're good, homie. Thanks, Gal Carrymon.
Robots and computers. And that's an interesting thing that we see.
I agree with that, Johnny. I think that's entirely possible. Our government got a hold of some alien tech in the 40s and 50s and played a big part in our advancement. I do think that's possible.
This sort of paradigm, this idea that that's the scaffolding for the way we think, right? And to what end? And why are we doing that?
Maybe it's the creation
has it
of
already
a new
happened?
life form.
But has it already happened? Are we the result of that impulse that happened a long time ago?
I think we are the shit-throwing chimps that are going to become the nuclear physicists.
That's what
we are the shit-throwing chimps from 2001 that become Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think this thing that we become is integrated with technology. It's probably some sort of a hybrid. It's some sort of a cyborg.
That's wild.
Because I think we're already like on the verge of merging. You know, all this talk of like Neuralink and all these various things. We watched this video the other day of this guy who is Googling questions and getting answers in his head with his headpiece on. Have you seen that thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Incredible. Right? So how long before that is like that's Pong.
I know, but that's
and then you have the Unreal 4 engine in 2023 that looks like a movie.
No.
Like how long before that technology gets to the point where it's just supremely advanced, and we literally are like gods.
But my question really is also the idea that that's engineering, right? That's a tool.
It's innovation.
But there's engineering. So there are two aspects to it. One is getting information faster and stuff, which doesn't get you closer to the truth, but it gets you information faster. There are endless facts.
Well, I mean, it can get you closer to the truth. If you're getting your information faster, then you're getting closer to the truth faster because you're getting that information at a more rapid rate. So that's just wrong.
But more importantly, I always wonder, like, why we are given this. I really believe that human potential is pretty much infinite. Whatever you can imagine and beyond, we can do, and we are doing. We seem to be doing this. Like, think about how crazy that is. I can wear a headset and I can do things with my mind and look up the answer.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's magic. It's crazier than magic. But there's a way to measure that and quantify that and replicate that. So it's not magic. I can do it and I can tell you exactly how I get there, which is even crazier. So
as far as what's special about this episode, I don't know in particular. Just it showed up in my timeline. It was titled "Our Government Just Shot a UFO," and I was curious about it, so I just thought it'd be interesting to break down, see what they have to say, and go from there. Just do us a little bit of woo-woo on a Thursday night.
What is that? What is that leading us to? It is nudging us closer. It's like I think it's very significant that we're getting a better understanding of what it's like to be someone else.
Yeah.
We are. It's really hard to say that a Yanomamo Indian or whoever it might be is.
That's not clickbait. I didn't get clickbaited because the clickbait is when something is an outright lie and you fall for something. I thought this could be an interesting avenue for discussion with you guys in the chat. That's not clickbaiting in the slightest. It's the point of doing internet online content.
Thinks about things differently than I do when I know so much about how all these human beings, like someone in Iran, someone in Jordan, laughs and cries and bleeds at the same thing I do.
I couldn't give a fuck less about that. I don't give a fuck if I want people in Jordan to cry and bleed more. If them crying and bleeding more means I get to cry and bleed less, then I'm all for it. I don't give a fuck.
It's
engagement bait's a better way to put it. Yeah.
Based on what that person looks like over there is becoming harder and harder to justify. Where it was before we knew about that, we were like, well, those people over there are quote unquote savages, or they're this, that, and the other thing.
I mean, two things can be true. You could have a better understanding of them and them still be motherfucking savages. Last I checked, we don't throw homos out the roof over here in America. Like, at least our government doesn't sanction throwing homos out of roofs here in America.
And I do think that we are getting a better understanding of what it's like to be each other and being nudged in the same direction. I'm not saying we don't become tribal.
I think that's true too.
But why? And it's interesting to think about where that's leading us to what understanding. And then when we have that understanding, what are we going to do about that?
Right. And are we going to pull it together? And are the aliens here to make sure that we don't fuck it up?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the beautiful.
The theory that I really like, and this is not one that I ascribe to, but the theory that I really like is that aliens are just us from the future, heavily evolved, and they've come back to impart their knowledge and whatnot. That way we can get to where they are to keep the cycle continuing. I like that. I don't believe it, but I like that. What up, LMA? LMA says, meowdy, y'all. How you doing, girly?
Idea. The terrible idea is that it's all us. And then it's all a big ruse, and it's all just drones that we're doing because we don't want China and Russia to know about it. But we have insane propulsion systems that operate on gravity. And
yeah.
And I think that's the more likely. I do. But between the idea of E.T. visiting Earth, or really it's just all shit that we've made to outperform other countries and stay the #1 superpower, yeah, that's more likely.
I think it is.
But
I hate to tell you.
It seems like both. It seems like us. And it also seems like there's some shit that we just don't understand. And I don't know if those people are telling the truth. Because if the people that are telling the truth that there's biological entities, and this is what Jackie Gleason said that Nixon told him. And Nixon took him on they were drinking. You know that famous story?
No.
Who knows if it's true? It's a legend. But the legend is that Jackie Gleason and Nixon were drinking. And that Nixon said, you want to see some fucking aliens? And they get on Air Force One and they fly to some Air Force base and they go to a place where they have a crashed UFO and they have biological beings that are in freezers. And Jackie Gleason sees this. And Jackie Gleason, after that, has a house built in upstate New York that looks like a UFO. He became obsessed with UFOs after that. There was a house, it was actually for sale at one point in time. Yeah, so he has this house that he had shaped like a UFO. And this is like, who knows if this is a true story?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, it was kind of sort of disputed. His ex-wife told the story or something like that. I forget.
I think that kind of thing is actually impossible to keep secret.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
No, I don't
you
think so at all.
generational, like
Yeah.
generation.
I still believe that we are the space equivalent of uncontacted tribes of the Pacific. I don't believe that. Like, I don't know, what reason would there be to do that? Because the reason that we don't contact these tribes is not to, disturb their ecosystem and things to that effect. And then if we show up, we would fucking murder them, with our space germs and shit. I don't see that being, because if we've got these super technologically advanced beings that can travel the cosmos, you don't think they'd have a way to mitigate something like that? That one just doesn't hold up to me.
Of government bureaucrats can keep something a secret.
Sure,
I don't
they
think
tell the people at the very highest level know about it. It's very few people. It's all very compartmentalized.
they're always-
They monitor everyone's phone calls, everyone's emails, everything everyone does.
Impossible.
At a top secret clearance level,
No way.
I don't think you're right.
Totally
You're
impossible.
definitely not right.
I think it's impossible.
Listen, man, they can keep secrets.
When?
People
Which
at high
ones?
levels of military can keep secrets.
Yeah, but they're
People
always
that-
rotating out. They're retiring. They're dying.
Yeah, and they probably wind up fucking Hillary Clinton and a lot of those dudes.
But, I mean, now let's take the UFO aspect aside, and let's just talk about the practicality of what Joe Rogan's talking about. He's 100% correct. I've told this story many a time, and I'll tell it again. My grandfather was Special Forces in Nam. He had some pretty high military clearance. He claims he's been to Area 51, and according to him, he's like, nah, there's no fucking aliens there. It's just a lot of testing of incredible aircraft stuff, and that's all I can tell you. Otherwise, I could be charged for treason. Like, that's my grandfather. After years upon years, I don't even ask him about it anymore. There's no point. Ever since I was a kid, he'd be like, nope, can't talk about it. I can be tried for treason. Like, if you won't tell a goddamn 9-year-old or a 16-year-old or a dude in his 30s that shit, and because he's worried about being charged with treason, yeah, people will keep that fucking secret.
Hey, listen, dude. This is not this is not Conspiracy Social Club. This
Might
is
as
the Joe
well be.
Rogan Experience.
I am not willing to relinquish the idea that they could keep that secret.
Well, that's 'cause it's
I think
fun to
it's-
believe in.
Yeah, but it's not just fun to believe in. It is possible. It's a physically possible thing to do, especially if you have the right people and they're indoctrinated in the right way with top secret clearance. And by the way, it's not like these people don't tell their friends. And it's not like there's a bunch of stories floating around, because there
Right.
are. There's a shitload of stories
That's what I'm
floating
saying.
around.
But why would you, like, I would never keep that a secret. I'd be like, hey,
Well,
you got
but here's
fucking
the thing.
aliens.
Here's the thing. When you have senators and
It was that guy like Bob Lazar who claims he was hired to study it. Yeah, Bob Lazar, yes.
congressmen who find out about this, and they find out that military contractors are the ones who have access to this stuff, because the back engineering program has to involve someone who has the capability of recreating this. So who would that be? That would be the people that make jets. If you got someone who's making you a fucking a stealth bomber and you have a crashed UFO, those are the people that you want discussing like what kind of things you've recovered from a fucking alien crash, and can this be replicated?
No, here's the problem with your
I mean,
whole
don't
theory.
you know me, motherfucker? Because
Listen,
you don't
man,
know. You might be
this
wrong.
Is you're wrong. No.
No.
This is
Don't say you're wrong,
this is
because
the
you don't
problem.
know that
This
I'm
is the
wrong.
problem with your theory. Ready?
Okay, good.
Joe had him on. I don't know what to believe about that. I want to say it's just advanced military. And that's probably what most of this stuff is. Advanced military shit, absolutely. Bob Lazar is an interesting character. We definitely need to do a deep dive on Bob Lazar on TFH, because he's an interesting character.
I'm sorry, and I love that you want to believe in this, and so do I, but here's the problem.
Okay.
There's no law. There's no written law that says I'm not allowed to talk about aliens. And I mean at the top levels of...
Well, he's wrong. There actually is written laws about what people who have high-level military clearance aren't allowed to talk about. That they sign contracts basically, stating that you will suffer legal ramifications if you expose this stuff. Like Edward Snowden, there's a reason he had to fucking flee to Russia. It's because what he did was illegal. You can say, oh, well, there's no law about telling the American people the truth. Actually, the fuck there is. Otherwise, Snowden would have been fine and dandy.
clearance, like the most secret level.
Yeah, it's Brian Callen
There
he's
is
talking
no
to.
world where if I'm a government official and I take a bunch of pictures and I come before Congress and I go, here's my evidence, I'm blowing the whistle, there are real aliens.
You don't think they would go after you for
I'd never go to jail.
violating your top secret clearance?
No, because
You never go to jail. Again, like Joe said, because they Hillary Clinton you instead.
it's not violating my top secret clearance.
But it would
because,
be.
Nope.
I don't
Because
think
I'd,
you're
I'd
right.
never go to jail for that. Because I'd be like, you're going to put me in jail for exposing what everybody wants to know? The whole world would be like, holy shit, you guys kept
But
this a
that's
secret?
assuming that you have access to that material to extract
There are enough
it
people who
from
would.
wherever maybe not. Maybe those are the kind of people that wouldn't do that, Brian.
Listen,
You
my
fucking
friend.
communist. I don't like the way you think.
I'm shredding your UFO
No,
theories.
you're not.
Listen,
You think you are, but you're just using these establishment.
You're allowed
talking
to talk.
What do you mean Hillary Clinton you? Bro. To Hillary Clinton somebody is slang for how many people the Clintons have allegedly had fucking murdered for attempting to expose them and their business dealings.
Talk
points.
about
You
UFOs
sound
and you
like
never
your
get in
dad.
trouble.
You sound like your dad.
Come on, man. First
you're
tell me
a
Andy Schultz
CIA
will beat me up. And,
stooge. You're a CIA
I'll call my dad
stooge,
right now.
And you're in here spreading propaganda to the faithful listeners.
listen to
of
me.
this
Listen to me. There are no aliens. And if there are, we'd know about it because it's
If
not
there is, you're
against
going to
the
come
law.
back on dressed like a clown. Agreed?
Agreed.
That's my bets I'm making with everybody now.
Yeah, Epstein was allegedly Clinton. Exactly. Now, to be fair, I don't know who murdered Epstein. There's a whole lot of motherfuckers it could have been. Could have been the Israelis, could have been the royal family, could have been the Clintons. All of them could have gotten together in one nice little meeting and said, let's all kill them together. I don't know. But we all know motherfucker was murdered.
I'll dress up like
you
a
gotta dress
clown.
like a clown.
I'll do it.
Now, I'm not in, believe it or not, I'm not into UFOs. I don't follow stories or,
Even after your experiences?
No, I'm fascinated with the technology, and it really
To whoever was asking about Bob Lazar earlier, this is Bob Lazar.
irks me like every night I go to sleep that, that it was my own doing, essentially, that prevented me from continuing on in the project. I mean, it's that to be on that cutting edge of technology is so alluring to me.
Right.
But by the same token, I don't really care that there's aliens or where they come from. I mean, the prize is the technology, and that's what I'm fascinated by. But so I don't listen to UFO stories and that sort of thing. But George Knapp is, he's the guy that has the contacts and tries to thread everything together. And what he recently told me is he found, I don't know, it was either documentation or people that he spoke to. It's that the existence of this project, the project that I was on, it's something that.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely believe he was working on something in Area 51. It's just whether or not it's aliens, I can't speak to that.
They seem to take out every 8 or 10 years.
So that's a very specific memo, and this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document is real. Everybody wants to know. The world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. I'll tell you straight up right now.
Catch you later, LMA.
I'm in the position to know, and it is a real document. That it is real. So the conversation you read in that
I don't believe there are aliens. The other theory is that they're studying humans. Wait. You don't believe in aliens. The other theory is that they're studying humans kind of like a petri dish. I'm very confused about the like you say you don't believe, and then you say here's the theory. Did you type something incorrect? Because if you type something incorrect, feel free to restate what you're stating. What up, Luce? How you doing, girly? It's been a minute.
conversation was had. I can't attest to every.
You're not being very clear.
Sure.
Please.
No problem. So there was a document that is circulating right now that is really big. It's going around everywhere. People are asking and
What is
wondering.
this document?
It's called the Wilson Memo. Is how you can find.
You don't believe. So now let me. You say you don't believe in aliens personally. Let me wager you this. Somewhere far off in the cosmos, there's a single-cell organism on a meteorite, on a comet, something like that. Single-celled organism on a comet. Do you find that idea to be impossible? You think you can't believe in the idea that there's single-celled organisms on a comet? Because if so, if you believe that, then you believe in aliens. No, so you don't even believe that then. Not the theory that aliens. All right, so I'm curious, like what specifically you do and don't believe when it comes to aliens.
It online, the Wilson leak.
There it is. Jimmy's got it. The Wilson memorandum. Use of human volunteers.
No.
Well, and Matt, you're incorrect. That it's a statistical impossibility that we're alone in the universe. It's not a statistical impossibility. I mean, that's why we have the Fermi paradox, for example. Like, we don't have the numbers as to whether we're alone in the universe or not. The math doesn't really bear out one way or the other. It's very complex. It's something I have to refresh my memory on because it's something I did a deep dive into a long time ago. But actually, it is more of the known universe, of everything we've observed so far. It is actually, I believe, more statistically likely that we are alone. But of course, that's going off of the limited knowledge we have. Said some may not be intelligent, but there is life out there. Yeah, no, and again, yeah, no, I agree. I think there's life out there, absolutely.
That was it, yeah.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah. So Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see. My history is pretty good with like saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G special projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. This happens. They've
done a bunch of M-class plans that could potentially support life. Yeah, and so here's the difficult thing about whether or not something could potentially support life. There are so many factors, and to find a planet that meets like all the same factors as ours is relatively impossible. But who's to say that life needs to develop under the same factors as us? So like, planet could, it could be in the habitable zone. It could have water. It could have the right, atmospheric makeup that we found via spectroscopy. But even then, who's to say how the life would evolve if the life exists? Things like that. And no, you're good. Okay, bro.
They put the technology away, and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things it's vindicating, besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral.
Have a good rest of your night, Brown. Enjoy your show.
I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access. So I think the takeaway here is, check it out. I'm telling you that is an actual correct, that is a leak. Now, everything said in that document, I don't know.
What are you talking about? What is said in that document specifically?
It's
Yeah, we'll finish that. It's got like 6 minutes
between
left.
A scientist and an admiral that are
Johnny,
sitting, and
I think the same thing. I would just like to see
and they're
proof.
talking about the search for the UFO subject, the search to get special access program access to all of these different things like reverse engineering programs. So in this document, they talk about it. I believe that this document, the person that went was employed by Robert Bigelow, one of the guys that has a couple orbiting satellites and all that stuff.
He's the guy who owns
Jewish space lasers, baby. Jewish space lasers.
Skinwalker Ranch.
No, he's not. No? He was the guy that owned
Skinwalker.
To own it.
Okay.
Yeah, he used to own it. There's a new owner, and I interviewed him for my other film, but there's a new owner, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that soon. But it'll just
like Candace Owens, baby. Buy my book.
There's stuff that you'll be hearing about Skinwalker Ranch soon because there's a new owner. Anyway, the whole point of this insertion here is just that document kind of
I almost made a
validates
Deuce
a
Bigelow
lot
joke
of this
myself.
idea Bob just said, that they make a little progress, then they can't go anywhere. They tuck it away, and then they bring it back out, 10 years later and start working on it. What is...
No, I think the reason that Musk wants to get to Venus or Mars, well, for one, Mars, you could maybe potentially possibly terraform for life. Venus is probably, like, for resources, I'm not entirely sure. Venus, it would be interesting to get to and to get, like, soil samples from and all this, because Venus potentially had an atmosphere, not an atmosphere, a climate very similar to Earth for a very short period of time, but due to its atmosphere, an accelerated greenhouse effect rapidly destroyed it compared to here on Earth.
the limiting factor I think Bob should speak on?
Yeah, Venus is inhospitable, correct.
This, but it's the material science.
Yeah, it's really where physics is. So I can see them doing that. I mean, I didn't have any information on that, but I think what George uncovered is probably accurate. That we try and do what we can, and once we reach a roadblock, we really can't figure.
Yeah, Venus is a pressure cooker filled with acid. Correct, exactly.
Figure it out. It's just friggin' put the thing away, wait for science to catch up, and a decade later, let's take the project out again and see. All right, now where can we go?
But there's got to be someone who remains informed, right?
Yeah,
So
like
you've
I
got
said,
your scientists like
exactly.
you and Barry. You got your people that you compartmentalize. You got these people working on
Yeah,
this
there
project.
has to be.
I think it would be insane if Mars became terraformed, but it's going to probably still need a constant flow of resources to do it. No, I'm not sure what you mean. Like, once it's completely terraformed, the idea of terraforming is to make it mimic Earth in the most livable way possible. Now, how Mars... terraform means changing the planet, which is true. How they would change the atmosphere is what I don't know or don't get. So, if they're unable to do that, then you would think, yeah, it would definitely need to be... You would need a constant flow of resources, because Mars does not have... Its atmosphere is so incredibly thin.
Some people that know everything.
You've got security, and then someone's going to be on the outside saying, hey, we need people to guard this building. Don't let anybody in for 10 years.
I think a lot of that is private industry, and I think that's how they keep it. Yeah, I think that's how they because the government is just so leaky. I think that's kind of what they're doing.
That's what the document kind of proves. You just articulated that it is in control of private industry.
What private industry? Some aerospace company, something?
I don't know.
Yeah, the admiral wouldn't name it in the car in the conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So they
the biggest challenge, sustained atmosphere from Mars. Yeah, exactly.
Still have these things, supposedly.
I would guess. I mean, I don't have any information on that.
Have you ever asked anyone that has any inkling of any idea of where they got them or how they got them?
No, but something must have been said to me from Barry. But it was just too long ago, and I can't quite remember what was said, but it just left a seed in my mind. I think at least one of them was part of an archaeological dig. So it's old. At least one of them is old. I don't know if it was the one I worked on, but I remember something to do with an archaeological dig.
Whoa.
So that means it's not just old, it's ancient.
That'd be a great Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Right?
As all of it would, yeah.
Yeah, that tripped me out when he said that for the first time.
Yeah, that's a freak out there.
There's an old series of fiction books. I think they're called Red Mars, Blue Mars, and Green Mars, and some good theories. What they lack, that they just lack the technology. I've never heard of those. Well, with other billionaires building fallout shelters, at least planning. Yeah, that to me is far more concerning. You were entirely correct.
There's a couple of dudes with some brushes looking for a Tyrannosaurus Rex bone. They hit metal.
And when did they find it? That they have 9 of them.
Yeah. Well, and how could we have not heard about that? What about the guys with the brushes? How could you uncover something like that? And
well, Joe's newspaper at home does. I mean, they said it on that first day.
Oh, you mean the Roswell Daily Record?
Yeah, the one you told me. Yeah,
I have a cover. What is this here, Jamie?
This is the document, but I had to do some digging to find it.
Yeah, it's just kind of... Yeah, so this is where they meet at EG&G, and this is Admiral Wilson, and there's a lot more coming out. Now, I want to be clear, George didn't put this out. He didn't leak this out to anybody. This is I can tell you how
Who
I
recorded this conversation?
So this was an employee of, at the time, Robert Bigelow.
And this is in 2002?
Right. Do you remember when he had that government contract called OSAP, the world all knows about now, and he had NIDS that studied the ranch? So that $22 million, everybody is saying...
We actually covered that organization on the Skinwalker Ranch episode of Tinfoil Haters. Yeah, what he's talking about right now is actually kind of interesting. There was, in fact, a government-registered third-party organization that did study everything he's referring to here. They got grants of thousands and thousands of dollars because Robert Bigelow was in good with one of the senators that gave the approval for this organization to basically run on the government's dime. But it got shuttered in, like, 2011 or something like that after not producing the results. So, yeah, what he's referring to is real.
It was for ATIP.
Is real, not Israel.
Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. The $22 million was for OSAP that was pushed through Congress, 3 congressmen, right? An astronaut. It was pushed through. And that's what that $22 million, by the way, they spend more money on Viagra every year than they do studying UFOs if it was just this program, which I think is funny.
They probably make a lot more money from Viagra
They probably do.
From UFOs, too.
Well, you never know how it seeds into population. But anyway...
Which is really funny they bring up Viagra because in Men in Black lore, like the movies, aliens invented Viagra.
This program, this is what was the mother program. So it got the $22 million. And really, it was to study Skinwalker Ranch. Oddly enough, that $22 million all was inspired by the phenomenon they were seeing at Skinwalker Ranch. Because the scientists, they're seeing vehicles come through like a space in the sky.
Yeah, we went there. I went there with Duncan.
Yeah,
we interviewed a bunch of people that seemed full of shit, but a couple that didn't. It was very, very interesting.
Totally. And
yeah, everyone is aware. I don't believe for a moment that we'll ever have a true nuclear war because, like, mutually assured destruction is absolutely a thing. Like, mutually assured destruction is a thing. I think that the Russians take it seriously. I think we take it seriously. I think China takes it seriously. North Korea may or may not, but their nukes don't get more than 15 miles off their fucking little land patch. So it doesn't really matter what they think. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever have a true blue nuclear war because mutually assured destruction is just way too big of a fear.
And if you look, I spent a lot of time in the area. I'm not talking about those stories. I'm saying there were scientists hired by the government, right, through Bigelow to study the ranch because they thought it was important. And, you know, whatever. The point is that $22 million was to study that. Then we have ATIP, which is like an auxiliary kind of program of military sightings, like Commander Fravers and that sort of thing. This document is just one of those things that has now come forward that through the Bigelow studies, it was government funded, and then it was personally funded and then government funded. It's just one of those things that kind of shakes you because you got this military guy who can't get access because of the private industry that's holding these non-terrestrial materials, that they can't study it. So that's the claim right now. Give it some time, let people dig more into this. It's fascinating, man.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, it really brought some fun and good discussion amongst the chat, which is what I wanted. Some escapism after that trash house. There was that Candace Owens interview. We do got one more video to go through. Before we do, I gotta run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back with you guys. Cheers, stream. Alrighty. Almost having the Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah, the chair's just like, time to air. Yeah, no, I'm good. I would be way too terrified to do that on stream. Alrighty. I figured to round out the night, let's just get into some nostalgia, boys. Why did the PS2 look so cool? Man, I've harped about this for ages. The difference between realism and stylization. And I would love to do a deep dive and just, not only remember the glory days and think about the nostalgia of the PS2, but also maybe it'll give us a fruitful discussion about why these games, in my opinion, are more visually striking in a positive way than 90% of what we get now.
Do you feel a strange connection to these graphics? What about these locations? Despite being over 2 decades old, there's something about these visuals that people are still so obsessed with, to the point that many developers will choose them over modern graphics. Whether it's the charm of low poly textures or the fact that half the games were set on refreshing tropical islands, I want to find out what made the PS2 aesthetic so iconic. And also, so weird. But first, what exactly is the PS2 aesthetic? I'm sure you've seen videos of people using AI to recreate the look. They end up with an image that looks fresh out of Bully or Deus Ex. But the aesthetic is a lot more than just a filter. The graphics, the lighting, the atmosphere, it's all distinct. In fact, some of the effects were outright impossible to emulate on later consoles. For instance...
Yeah, I mean, not only that, so it's an encapsulation of how groundbreaking those sorts of technological leaps were at the time. If you go from PS1 to PS2, that's a massive jump. PS2 to PS3 didn't really feel as impactful. And PS3 to PS4 is like next to nothing. It doesn't even really matter what art style your game went with. No matter what, it still had that PS2 vibe, that PS2 effect. And really not just PS2, obviously you had GameCube and Xbox at the same time. But the point is, we all know that visual style when we look at it, even amongst, like, you can't say that Kingdom Hearts had the same sort of stylization as, like, again, here, Gran Turismo. So I just want to be distinct, there's a difference between stylization and graphics.
In Gran Turismo 3 for the PS2, the asphalt had this really cool heat haze effect that made the tracks feel way more real. But when the PS3 came around, the developers found it was completely incapable of recreating it, despite being way more powerful on paper. And that's ignoring the original Xbox, which, while being roughly 3 times more powerful than the PS2, struggled to pack the effects of the exact same titles into a smooth 30 FPS.
Really? I didn't know that. That's because what people don't realize, or a lot of people don't know, the PS2 graphically was the weakest of the 3. Even the GameCube had stronger graphical capability than the PS2. It's just that you often didn't notice it because Nintendo goes with a pretty distinct, non-graphically heavy art style. But compare games that were on both systems, the GameCube and the PS2, the GameCube version always looks better. I was so mad when Wind Waker had toon shading when I first saw it. Oh, dude, I loved that shit out the gate. I was a day one evangelist for the Tomb Raider. For Wind Waker's toon art style.
Games like Metal Gear Solid 2, the rain would slow it to a crawl, while the smaller console barely stuttered. The thing is, Sony had a trick up their sleeve, something that allowed them to create groundbreaking weather conditions and atmosphere that, frankly, embarrassed much stronger consoles. When the PS2 was being developed in the late 90s, they knew they wanted more from their games. More animation, more immersion, and naturally, more emotion. They didn't just want the characters to feel more alive though. Everything from the environments to the gameplay needed to be more intense and cinematic. They achieved this.
Bro, Final Fantasy X was like the last truly great Final Fantasy. I love Final Fantasy 15. I know I get hate for it. Man, Final Fantasy X was just incredible, bro.
By creating the Emotion Engine, a cluster of processors built to help generate particles and simulate cloth, rain, wind, and water at abnormal speeds. But with great power comes PS2 Hagrid. The gymnastics they had to do to make this engine even function came at a cost. A lot of the PS2 aesthetic revolves around this hazy, almost dreamlike filter that was layered over every game. It wasn't really an intentional choice though. It was a necessary trade-off for the engine's advanced effects and smoother.
I don't hate Final Fantasy 12. I only played it once, like, enjoyed my time with it, but never really went back. I've got no real inclination to go back. Again, no shade to it. It just, I don't know, it's not special to me.
the gameplay. It just so happens to create an instantly recognizable style. Lights and faces have this unique, soft glow to them. On a technical level, this was often the result of games using vertex lighting. It calculates the light at the corners of a model and then blends it across the surface. It was simply cheaper and easier than doing the same for each individual pixel, which would have been the alternative. The consequence, though, is this blurred, softer look. The hardware was also responsible for the reliance on fog. Another hallmark.
I was about to say, that's why horror games work so well on the PS2. Like, I'm truly curious. I love Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly. It is one of my favorite horror games of all time. And it was recently announced that Fatal Frame 2 is getting a remake. And, like, if they don't change anything or touch anything and they just, like, upgrade the visuals and give some, like, quality of life stuff, I'm not inherently opposed. But man, I don't know how they're going to match that visual aesthetic. I'm truly worried they're going to go with a more real-life, realistic art style. I don't want that. The visual aesthetic of the PS2 and Fatal Frame is one of the things that made it so visually terrifying.
Mark of the aesthetic. Silent Hill, Shadow of the Colossus, their fog isn't just hiding distant terrain, it's building atmosphere. Environments like forests feel so much more mystical. It begs you to keep exploring, slowly unveiling your surroundings instead of showing you everything at once. In Silent Hill, it was even more deliberate. By the second game, the fog had become an essential component of the art style and story. The PS2's emotion engine allowed it to be heavier and deeply claustrophobic. Still, these effects and filters aren't the only explanations for the aesthetic's popularity. There's just something so special about low poly graphics. And I know I'm not the only person who thinks this. It's become a whole niche today for graphic designers, with thousands of people intentionally using it in their artwork. In concept, it's pretty simple. Modern titles have more polygons, older titles have less. If you're looking at a bunch of chunky, flat surfaces, it's low poly. And if you're on the PlayStation 2, that's probably gonna be most of the games. Obvious.
Alright, Polygonna B, that's well done.
Obviously not to the same extent as the PS1, but still at a point where you can count the number of rectangles used for Big Smoke's fingers. Chances are, though, you remember these games as being just as immersive as the ray-traced, hyper-realistic worlds we get now. And
no, I would say even more immersive. Now, how much of that is nostalgia? You're looking back on it, you were a kid, so you had even more of an imagination, so the imagination would fill in the blanks. Or how much of it was all the optimization to make modern day gaming so streamlined has actually removed the immersion. Like, it feels less like a fantastical world when it is so realistic. Yeah, that's why I think that stylization is important. If they had remade Resident Evil 4, but they kept it with that same pseudo-realistic mixed with kind of anime art style, I think I would have enjoyed the game more.
Personally, I'd say this isn't simply nostalgia or your imagination. Low poly trades detail for clarity. There isn't as much clutter and complex textures filling up environments. Your brain can immediately process and get a clearer picture of the objects, terrain, and enemies around you. And for the stuff that isn't there, you just use your imagination engine, the same one you use when you read a book or close your eyes. Many argue that this creates a more engaging experience, because low poly graphics encourage you to fill in the gaps yourself.
Oh man, Signalis, I was gifted that relatively recently, and I'm going to be playing it very soon. I can't wait to get into Signalis.
Kind of like how fog creates a constant sense of mystery. Until you've explored, you can only imagine what it's hiding. In both cases, it's what the game doesn't show you that makes you feel connected and intrigued. And that mysterious aura is exactly why people are so invested in the aesthetic. But it's still not the full picture. Because if you recognize most of the games so far, you might also remember a period from the late 90s to the early 2000s when studios were obsessed with tropical islands. I've touched on this phenomenon before, but I completely forgot just how popular it was on the PS2. Almost all of the games people reference were either on it or the GameCube. While Nintendo had Super Mario Sunshine and The Wind Waker, the PS2 had Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, Jak and Dax.
Did he just... You say Final Fantasy X instead of Final Fantasy... Is that weird to anyone else? Saying Final Fantasy X instead of Final Fantasy X? No, Annie, damn it. My cat hit the keyboard. We're gonna have to get back to where we were. Hold on, we're almost there. Alright, perfect, right here. Damn it, Annie. Anyway, And man, he mentioned Jak and Daxter, like one of my favorite games of all time. I adore that game. Some of my oldest streams on this channel are me playing through that.
Final Fantasy X, Kingdom Hearts, Jak and Daxter, and Crash Twinsanity. All of these games either took place in tropical settings or made sure to at least visit them, and I get it because they're just so nice to look at. I love the look of their low poly palm trees, endless horizons, and the soft pink gradients they'd paint across the sky at sunset. Again, I really don't think these locations would hit the same with modern graphics.
Well, actually, they don't hit the same with modern graphics because we have games like, let's use Sonic the Hedgehog, for example, because Sonic was in that line of characters. Modern Sonic games still use the beachy sort of aesthetic for certain levels, usually opening levels. And, like, while I like them, they don't hit as hard as they did in the Dreamcast and GameCube era. I don't feel it as much. And it's not like, me getting older and rejecting it. It's purely because of a visual style. Kingdom Hearts 3? Did Kingdom Hearts 3 even have an aesthetic like that, or have a location that was? If so, I don't remember it. Now, granted, it's because a lot of that game is not fucking memorable. Mario Odyssey had a great... Mario Odyssey had a pretty great... Wait, first level. The first level is when you're on the moon. First level, and then from there, you go to, like, that dinosaur world. And yeah, that dinosaur world had a great... had a great aesthetic. And I think it's because Nintendo prioritized art style over graphics. But yeah, the space looking one was cool. I agree.
Bright and chunky visuals create this really satisfying contrast between the sand, the trees, and the ocean. If they were made today, the colors would be toned down and everything would look more muted and...
See, yeah, this is just not near as visually engaging. Yeah, it's a beach, but it's so realistic that I just don't find myself truly immersed in it.
Realistic. You lose half the charm that made these tropical locations so inviting. Of course, this fixation spread far beyond PlayStation.
Did I play Siren? That one doesn't ring a bell, so no, I don't think so.
Mentioned the GameCube, but you'd also find it on the original Xbox and the Dreamcast. Sonic Adventure's Emerald Coast is possibly the cleanest example of the style. This
is one of my favorite levels in all of video game history. I have loaded this game up just to play through this first level multiple times and then turn the game off. I fucking love this level. The aesthetics in this are some of the best you will ever get out of a beach-themed level. It's so great.
Brings up a question though, one that you're probably already asking. Why? Why did every studio randomly become infatuated with islands and the tropics? Well, for starters, it was easy. To make a tropical island, you really only need a couple trees and rocks. This requires way less processing power than something like a city. At a time when so many games were new to 3D, they often picked from the same handful of biomes for this very reason. So you saw a lot of deserts, snow levels, and tropical islands. With such uniform colors, developers could get away with using fewer textures and less detail. The end product would look good either way. That being said, the explanation does go a little deeper. In the early 2000s, advanced reflections, volumetric sunlight, and bloom were seen as
in the pursuit to make games more realistic, we remove character and uniqueness from them. Exactly. Exactly, and that is why I mean, I've made this case for Tomb Raider, and if you guys watched my Tomb Raider video yesterday, you heard me make this case, but I'll make it again just in case. I am excited for the new Tomb Raider games. I think they look good. I think they're back on the right track. I'm very much A-okay with the modern Tomb Raider games. But they suffer, at least from what we've seen so far, the same mistake as most other modern games. They lean too heavy on realism, and they sacrifice stylization. And again, it gets just like what Dormant Sykes said, it does remove the uniqueness. And I don't like that trend in gaming.
Markers of the next generation. And what better way to showcase these than a tropical island? I mean, water suddenly went from being a flat blue plain to a graphical milestone. Waves, whirlpools, wind, it was the perfect setting. Looking back, a lot of these titles still hold up. Besides, shorelines and lagoons remain gorgeous. And imagine drinking the Super Mario Sunshine water at 3 AM. The reasons weren't all technical though. Many developers were directly inspired by places in Japan and Hawaii. For Japanese studios, it was often born of nostalgia for the country's subtropical islands, regions like Okinawa. As part of the Ryukyu archipelago, Okinawa is packed with lush forests and bright blue waters. The lead writer for Final Fantasy X credits these very environments as the inspiration for Spira. Southeast Asia played a role too, particularly the foliage and architecture found in Thailand.
That is so gorgeous. Like, again, you know, let's run an experiment right now. All right, let's do ruins of Thailand. Spelled Thailand wrong. There we go. All right, images. Let's find a good one. I want to do something like with a nice bright blue sky. Also, it hits just right. And I need a realistic image. You know, I saw one I liked near the top here. All right, let's go with this one. All right, copy. Oh, nope, not that. There we go. Copy image. Now let's go on over to ChatGPT. Take this image and turn it into a low poly PlayStation 2-esque environment. And let's just see what it gives us, right? Let's see what this gives us. Probably should put low polygon so that it knows, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it's learned enough to know what low poly means. Creating retro visual temple in Ayutthaya, or whatever how the fuck you would say that. Fuck me, I want to live there. Yeah, right. Yeah, it was gorgeous. Now this isn't quite what I wanted. This is more like Nintendo 64 JRPG or PlayStation 1 JRPG than that, but. Yeah, this is more N64. Let me give you a reference for lighting and polygon count. There you go. We'll do the Sandover Village from Jack and Daxter as a reference point. All right, now that I've given it this reference photo, let's see what it gives us. So we're taking this photo with this reference photo, and let's see what it turns out. It's PS 1.5 graphics. Yeah, there we go. Last modern game that truly you lost something was Red Dead Redemption 2, which I've never played. All right, floating Thai temple at sunset. All right, let's see what this gives us. Yeah, so for simplicity, so this is the image that we're going off of. God damn it, it just mixed the two together. You know what? Fuck you, AI. Made me look fucking stupid. Well, it did blend them in there decently well, I guess.
Thailand. Anyway, while I do miss this tropical period, it wasn't really the most memorable part of the PS2 aesthetic. In fact, most of its games had a completely different tone, one that defined what was arguably the darkest and edgiest period in gaming history.
Yeah, boy, I brought Fatal Frame earlier. Let's go. This is exactly what I'm talking about, son.
There's something about horror games from this era that people find distinctly unsettling. So much so that they've carved out their own space decades later, inspiring hundreds of indie games and artists. For example, you may have heard of PSX Horror. It describes the look and feel of survival horror games for the PS1.
I was about to say, yeah, because I feel like we see more PlayStation 1 era survival horror games on like Steam and whatnot from the indie side than we do PS2.
characterized by crunchy, pixelated textures, low poly models, and jagged edges. It's basically what you'd find in Silent Hill and early Resident Evil titles. A lot of their darker atmosphere came from technical limitations, and the same can be said for their sequels on the PS2. Mostly.
I do remember Manhunt. I quite enjoyed Manhunt.
You see, things started to change in the early 2000s. Suddenly, it was no longer enough to just be scary. Consumers wanted something grittier, something even darker. And so began the golden age of the PS2. Series that started off as family-friendly platformers were stripped of their innocence and given...
Bro, yeah, man, Jak 2 went dark and gritty like years before Edgy the Hedgy, man. Like, this is... The shock I had... Just looking at the case, the cover art for Jak 2 was like, oh, fuck. He got a goatee now? He's holding a gun? I was enthralled. And then you play the game. And you start off in the Sandover village, the one I just showed a picture of in the cutscene. But the first level is a fucking futuristic prison where you've been being tortured and Jak is swearing. Like, the tonal shift was mind-blowing for a young little Leon.
Weapons and
Yeah, Obscure was
apocalyptic
awesome.
cover art. This was happening everywhere, but the PlayStation 2 was absolutely the epicenter. Even the tamest, most mediocre release would be wrapped in this epic, over-the-top aesthetic. Blood, explosions, metal. As we've established, it wasn't exclusive to horror games, but it was there that it really shined. They made an effort to explore darker, more provocative themes, paired with chaotic graphic styles. It was this edginess that led to more than a few titles being outright banned, censored, or restricted in certain countries. Games like Rule of Rose and Manhunt. But that's beside the point. What I'm more interested...
I want a copy of Rule of Rose so bad, but it's so expensive. I had the opportunity to buy a copy for 80 bucks once and thought, no way, that's too expensive. And now that bitch goes for like 300. I should have fucking done it, bro.
...in is why these games are still so creepy despite their technically worse graphics. They're so effective, in fact, that developers choose them today over modern engines. Luckily, the answer is hidden in a single game. Armed with nothing but a camera, Fatal Frame places you inside Himuro Mansion, an abandoned Japanese estate deep within the forest. The found footage style intro reveals that you're searching for your brother, who went missing there weeks ago. But as you venture deeper and deeper within, you realize that Himuro Mansion is far from abandoned. The game offers a masterclass in transforming graphical limitations into psychological horror. Textures have jagged edges that shift and shimmer with every step. There's a grainy filter that intensifies in moments of danger. These are both markers of low fidelity visuals, but here they add to the game's unsettling qualities.
Which is why when these games get HD remasters or HD upgrades, like, I say which is why, I don't know, I'm guessing, you don't really see it done for horror games. Like, I can't think of, you know, Obscure, The Aftermath, or Fatal Frame 2, you know, Silent Hill 2, like the original, not the remake. I could be wrong, but I don't know if any of them got HD ports, like HD upgrades, the same way things like, you know, the Jak and Daxter trilogy did, or the, you know, the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games did. Because if you increase the fidelity to HD, you do lose some of what makes it so horrifying.
Everything looks distorted, unnatural. It's also just really dark. Even with a torch, there's places you can't fully light up. This and its relatively low draw distance makes enemies terrifying. They just emerge out of the darkness or blend in until you're far too close. The result is some uniquely disturbing scenarios. At one point, you run into an unidentifiable blob of flesh rolling around the floor. When you photograph it, the game simply reads, "female head." Even smaller details, like characters' faces, are significantly more uncanny in this style. The entity's expressions are rigid and difficult to read, and oftentimes—
Like, look at that, bro. Can you imagine this being effective? And that's why I'm so worried about the remake of Fatal Frame 2. Would this be that effective in modern day realistic graphics? I don't think it will, man. I don't. I think that this only works in isolation of not just the you know, lower graphical fidelity, but because it's got a specific art style. Like, when you remake Fatal Frame, they have got to keep that almost CGI anime looking aesthetic. If you don't keep that art style, it's not gonna work.
Sometimes you can only make out a few disturbing details. A mouth, a pair of eyes. You can find these kinds of elements in pretty much every PS2 survival horror game. They share an aesthetic that worked because the graphics kind of didn't. But if we're calling games like Fatal Frame disturbing and unhinged, where do you find the words to describe this?
I mean, still looks more fuckable than the "How dare you, girl," Greta Thunberg. I still would bang this over Greta Thunberg, assuming it's of age.
Honestly, I had no idea where to even begin until I had some gamer subs. This tastes like the
All right, y'all know the drill. We let the ad reads play out if we're gonna be stealing their content.
Super Mario Sunshine Water looks. With tons of flavors, caffeine, and zero sugar, I was able to lock in the most refreshing way possible. Being that time of year again, it's a great time to treat yourself or a fellow gamer in need. To get 10% off everything, click the link below or simply use code MINT. In the 90s and 2000s, ads were comfortable with getting a little freaky. Alright, maybe more than a little freaky.
I love this commercial. It lives rent-free in my fucking gray matter, bro. This weird-ass baby doll PlayStation 3 commercial. It was the PlayStation 3, right? Not the PS2. Pretty sure the baby doll was the PS3. But even so, I was enthralled with this commercial.
Nintendo ran a whole campaign for the DS centered around phrases like "touching is good" and "you can touch me down there if you want to." For whatever reason, they slapped this message onto everything. Imagine walking around with a shirt saying, "I was touched by the Nintendo DS." Kind of like the regional variants in Pokemon, they even made different versions for different locations. This one proudly reads, "I got touched at Panama City Beach." When it's that specific, it kind of stops being funny. Anyway,
no, I disagree. I think that makes it even funnier. The more you have to add specificity to a joke, the funnier it gets.
Nintendo weren't the only ones.
The Fatal Frame 2 remake is only for Switch? What? No way. No way. Is the Fatal Frame 2 remake a Switch exclusive? No, Fatal Frame 2 Crimson Butterfly remake is not Switch exclusive. It's launching March 26th for multiple platforms, including PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, PC, Steam, and Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, I didn't think so. I was pretty sure they announced it was coming out to other platforms. You had me real nervous there.
Doing this, and Sony's were even more traumatizing. Their mental wealth advert for the PS2 featured a woman with a warped, alien-like skull. There's no context, no gameplay, and no mention of the console. Instead, she speaks vaguely about human potential, expanding our limits and our minds. Naturally, it was all very intentional. In the director's seat was Chris Cunningham, known for his work with Aphex Twin. The ad was made to be surreal and disturbing. The message isn't, "Here's a cool game box for your kids." It's, "This console is the future, and the future is weird." This trend continued with a mock ad for the PlayStation 9. The console is essentially just a drug contained within a glass sphere. When opened, it releases spores that shoot up your nose and anchor themselves to your adrenal gland. At the end of the ad, they finally show the logo for the PS2, alongside the word.
That is, I don't remember that commercial at all, but that's a baller commercial. Holy shit.
Words, "the beginning." It's saying that buying a PlayStation 2 is like buying your own little piece of the future. Still, it's a little harder to decipher their print ads. An eye with the 4 symbols.
Let's say it's more wonderful than God.
It's a little harder to decipher their.
It's more powerful than God. Okay. That's a ballsy fucking ad right there.
Their print ads. An eye with the 4 symbols etched in blood, a headless body shopping for heads. Some are cool, while others are simply disturbing. Another shows a man with a series of molds, preparing to shape faces made of clay. Imagine being the poor fucker that gets squished into Homer Simpson. Again, these were supposed to make.
I hope they reuse that PlayStation 9 ad for the actual PlayStation 9. I don't think the PlayStation is going to make it to PlayStation 9, homie.
You uncomfortable. They wanted the PS2 to feel otherworldly and powerful. And when people finally got their hands on it, it lived up to those expectations. Because it didn't just feel like the future, it looked like it. Booting up a PlayStation 2 for the first time is a memory that's hard to forget.
Like, the sound effect, man, you could just spend time in your memory card, bro. Like, if you spent time in the memory card and there were all the different what are they called? Icons for the games you had. It was such a visual treat. The sound design was on point. Now, I actually do prefer the sound design for the startup screen for the PlayStation 1. PlayStation 2 was damn good. Yeah, the save file icons, exactly.
A chime rings out as an ethereal pad swells in the background, creating a serene and futuristic ambience. The only time it didn't hit was when it played at 12 AM on a school night, but just as iconic as the startup sound were the visuals. The background features a collection of silver pillars rising through a blue haze. As you play, these increase in number, each representing a new game. The rest of the UI is relatively simple, but it still feels advanced, with abstract 3D elements and a clean black and blue color scheme. And it wasn't just the interface. The console itself had a bunch of futuristic variants and colorways. My favorite has always been the translucent ocean blue model. Released exclusively in Japan, it commemorated the sale of 10 million consoles. Both the controller and case are see-through, so you can look at everything that's going on inside. I've said it before.
Man, this was a weird era of gaming. Not just gaming, this was a weird era of technology. One, I'm not knocking, mind you, because I liked it, because the Nintendo 64 did this as well, but like, the see-through, kind of like acrylic, look at all of my, you know, circuitry and inside technological guts. Like, I miss it. But it was weird. That was definitely a weird aesthetic era, but I wouldn't mind seeing it again.
And I'll say it again, ClearTech needs to come back.
Yeah,
that being said, even the plain silver version was iconic.
Alright, so I had the OG PS2, right? The OG Fat Boy in black. But then when the PS2 Slims came out, I bought the PS2 Slim in silver. And I still have it. I think it's in my storage unit, but I still have my PS2 Slim silver. I have no idea if it works or not, though.
Leak. Now, none of this was random. The UI, the marketing, the aesthetic. It was all part of a cohesive vision, a vision with a very clear purpose. On paper, the PS2 wasn't the most powerful, it wasn't even the most affordable, but none of that mattered. The PS2 outsold all of its competitors combined by a factor of 3. With over 160 million units sold, it remains the most popular console of all time. Why? Because it was more than just a console. Sony was selling an idea that by purchasing a PlayStation 2, you were buying the console of the future. And in many ways, you were. They did everything they could to cram in groundbreaking effects, stunning settings, and a library of games that's yet to be rivaled. With all of this in mind, it's no surprise that the PS2 aesthetic became legendary. If you enjoyed this video and want me to cover your favorite console next,
yeah, that was an awesome video. I'm gonna throw this in the chat for you guys, and then we're gonna wrap it up and get on out of here. I love that era of gaming. I love that era of visual style. I mean, again, aesthetics in gaming are important, and the further we get into realism, which I feel like we've hit the ceiling cap on. I don't know how games can get any more realistic to the point where, I mean, it already effectively looks like you're watching a movie. We have real life people doing mocap for everything game related. I don't know how you can get much more advanced than we're already at, but we have lost a certain type of charm when it comes to that advancement. And if it were up to me, if I were to ever make a game or whatnot, I would definitely be one of those dudes that makes like an intentionally PS2, Dreamcast, GameCube era looking game. Because you have to choose an art style. And that art style will, if it's anything beyond a realistic, if done right, stand the test of time. So, that's, man, what a great video. What a great way to end the stream, just looking back on memory lane like that. But all good things must come to an end. This stream got to come to an end. Let me see who's live, who we can raid into. And, check us out tomorrow. I'll do all my plus stuff at the end. Let's see who's live. I'm gonna have to raid into somebody. I'm sure there's somebody live right now. Oh, yo, we'll raid Smash. We'll raid Smash. Catch you later, Zach. I know you came in at the end there, but catch you later, brother. Alrighty, crew. I'll be back tomorrow for Neon Leon. Videos coming out tomorrow as well. both on this channel and on the gaming channel. So I'll see you all for the next streams. Streams and videos every day. Sometimes it's stream clip re-uploads for people that missed the streams. Other times it's brand new original content. You'll just have to check and see. Let's get in there. Say hey to Smash. Tell him Vital Idol Raid. And until next time, it's all here in the Nerdosphere. This has been Words of Paradise.